The show is about to start, folks, but the refreshment stand will remain open for your pleasure.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
It would have been perfect with Moonraker. We'll get into it, but there are some correlations going on. There's a reason they put that in there.
The Red Room alone looks like the space station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. So, all right, we're getting ahead of ourselves again.
Yeah.
This is what we do every week. So, welcome everybody. I'm assuming you already hit record. I did hear the lady somewhere along the line.
This is going to be a barn burner of an episode. We've been waiting for this for so long.
What was this, May of last year it was supposed to come out?
I don't even remember how many dates this thing has had and been pushed. Maybe only second to the James Bond movie that's still to materialize.
Oh, I know. I saw it because I was in the theater yesterday, and October, it's finally coming out. No Time to Die.
That's months from now, though. Things can change.
That's actually, well, I hate to say, that's one of my news items. He's actually dead now. He's waited so long.
They've actually had a new James Bond come and go since.
You just don't realize it. All 12 of his movies are in the can. They're just waiting for release. Oh, man. So do we want to do, I guess we should tell everybody what we're talking about, which is, if you're not aware of Black Widow, that is exactly what we're...
The first MCU movie in eons.
It's the first. It was nice to see that opening credit, that little Marvel flips.
Yeah.
In the
Although
theater.
we do get it with the TV shows, but it's not the same.
It's different. No, it's not.
The
Well,
same.
I mean, I will say right now, I'm gonna assume that you watch this on Disney Plus.
I watched it on Disney Plus. Yes.
Okay, but you also have a 120-inch screen TV with surround sound in your house, and
Yep.
Yeah.
Lights were out, and watched it at night. So it was the theater experience. Well, not quite, but it was close as I could come to it.
Yeah, I did go to the theater. I went to the first showing on Saturday.
Interesting. How was it packed? Was it packed?
There was probably 20 plus people in there.
All right.
And this is literally playing in 23 screens in my theater. It is playing every 5 minutes. But there was a fair amount of people when I came out. There was a fair amount of people waiting in line for their popcorn. So people are coming out. So,
good. Yes. I'm glad. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to do F9 numbers, but I think people are definitely, although I will say every other person I talked to who was excited to see this and will be seeing it on Disney Plus. Not a single other soul I knew was
actually going into the theater.
Yeah.
You know who's definitely not going into the theater? Stephen Dorff.
What is up with that? I just wrote that note this morning. I'm like, what is it? Boy, that's sour grapes.
It's
that
completely, and he was in Blade. Come on.
I understand. Yeah, I know, but it's. Do you have his quote? I think I cut and pasted it.
He's embarrassed for Scarlett Johansson, he said?
Yeah, here we go. I got it right here. He goes, I still hunt out the good fish because I don't want to be in Black Widow, he says. It looks like garbage to me. It looks like a bad video game. I'm embarrassed for those people. I'm embarrassed for Scarlett. I'm sure she got paid $7 million, but I'm embarrassed for her. I don't want to be in those movies. I really don't. I'll find that kid director that's going to be the next Kubrick, and I'll act for him instead. Well, good luck with that, Mr. Dorff. It's just sour grapes. Oh, they didn't return my phone call, so I'm going to poo-poo them. And he's getting pressed. People are actually reporting this, and it's just like, just ignore this guy.
Is the next Kubrick actually going to be pounding down his door? Come on. And
dwarf guy.
he hasn't even seen it. This is just like these internet trolls that were trolling Brie Larson before Captain Marvel even came out.
Yeah.
Like it's basing your opinion on
Hearsay.
the 2 minutes you see in the trailer.
Right. Yeah. Listen, I don't know. Didn't he do those bunch of videos, Dorf on Golf? Like,
I think he's still bitter about the residuals on those videos. That's probably what his problem is.
My grandfather had to hold that. Tim Conaway on his knees or even buried up into
to a
his
certain
knees.
generation, that is the height of hilarity.
Yeah.
Tim Conway on his knees.
Is it one step
shoes.
above or one step below Benny Hill?
It's on the equal playing field, I think, with Benny Hill.
I'm just curious if there's anybody out there who even knows what I'm talking about.
When we say either Benny Hill or Dorf on Golf.
Yes.
I think, no, in all seriousness, Dorf on Golf would have fit perfectly into the Benny Hill show. There would have been no interruption to the show if there was suddenly a Dorf on Golf segment. I wouldn't have questioned it for a minute.
No, that's the innocent humor of a day gone by. Well, I mean, Benny Hill was not innocent by any means.
No, he was not.
Let's not put that up.
But really, if your name is synonymous with Dorf on Golf, don't you think you'd want to change that before you started starring in movies?
You think so? He probably doesn't even know. I'm embarrassed for him. Man. So what do we? So all right. So here's the deal, which is going into this, we're always trying to be clever in our pairing of these movies. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just an excuse to throw a movie in that we've been talking about for a long time and
that we want to watch.
And that we want to watch, right? Next week being a perfect example of comparing up Real Steel with Space Jam.
Jeff has been talking about watching Real Steel forever.
And suddenly, robots, baby.
Yeah, the perfect opportunity has come up because we don't just throw it out. There is thought, we do hold off on movies that even we do want to watch until the perfect opportunity comes up. And it seemed that Space Jam was that for Real Steel.
Yeah, without going just the original Space Jam. That's too much jam.
Too much jam. Too much Warner Brothers.
Not enough
too
peanut
much
butter. Too much jam. So, but this week, trying to come up and pair something with Black Widow because it is this seminal. It is the first in MCU's Phase 4 Marvel Cinematic Universe. Do we go female protagonist? Do we go espionage? And you landed on just based on the trail. Again, we're going Dorf territory. We're actually just looking at the trailer and speculating what this movie may or may not contain.
And in my case, it wasn't even looking at the trailer because I never actually saw the trailer.
I will tell you, I've seen the trailer quite a few times now because it's obviously, been held back for like 18 years. But this movie still had a lot of surprises that I didn't see coming.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, back to our pairing. So we landed on the idea of pairing it up with a James Bond movie. And it came down to two. It came down to Moonraker and it came down to Octopussy.
Well, also, we were considering From Russia with Love, but we thought that was too on the nose.
Yes, correct. Obviously, we got the Russian, the KGB, the espionage. And so we went with Octopussy. Female, antagonist, not protagonist.
Well, she turns into a protagonist at the end.
Yeah. Oh, spoiler alert. And we've obviously got the Russian connection because you have a character in there that looks just like Putin before Putin was even Putin. But then lo and behold, we're sitting in the theater and what is friggin' Natasha watching on TV? Moonraker. Oh. That would have been, I jumped out of my seat. I was like, oh, we were so close to hitting that.
But still, I think it's impressive that we even got in the ballpark and we're pairing it with a Roger Moore James Bond movie.
Yeah,
so kudos to us.
This definitely has Bond, Bourne, Mission Impossible kind of DNA all over this thing.
Just a testament to how far the Bond movies reach into popular culture continues to be, because we see the echoes in most of Christopher Nolan's movies. So all these filmmakers, I think, owe a debt to Mr. Bond.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't watch Octopussy and not think about Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom the entire way through. That came out a year later.
A year later, yeah. So they're yeah, maybe it was already in production. So maybe it wasn't.
But still, it's uncanny.
Yeah.
How many of those scenes echo each other?
The India locale.
The white suit. We got the battle in the marketplace. There's
the crazy dishes at dinner.
Yeah. So we'll get there because apparently we're getting ahead of ourselves yet again. Show's over, folks. We're done now.
Let's get our news out of the way.
All right, let's get this news out of the way. Okay, let's go. All right, we've talked about this in the past when we actually reviewed Galaxy Quest, one of the greatest Star Trek movies ever made, even though there's no Star Trek,
if not the greatest
characters. I agree. And that there were rumors for quite a while that a sequel's in development. And I think last we heard it was actually being courted by Netflix, but then a big monkey wrench, which was the fact of the passing of Alan Rickman. So that seems to be on hold. But lo and behold, I came across this, and I don't know, I couldn't really find like anything definitive beyond the headline, but apparently Simon Pegg and this writer Georgia Pritchett are working on a Galaxy Quest TV series for Amazon. Now, I don't know if this will continue with the actual actors, if it's being recast, because Tim Allen has come out and he said this was an Entertainment Weekly and it was quite a while ago, but he said it's a fabulous script. So there is a script floating around with the sequel.
A single feature length.
Yes, correct. Yeah. He said, but it had a hiccup because the wonderful Alan Rickman passed. So it all got very sad and dark because the script was all about Lazarus and Quincy, which is obviously Alan Rickman and Tim Allen's characters. It was all about their story. It doesn't mean they can't reboot the idea. The underlying story was hysterical and fun. And you could tell that there was definitely kind of a rivalry between them,
right? And Rickman's character really steals that movie.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, so to recast him or to just delete the character, I think would be hard. So I don't know this Simon Pegg. I mean, he's got his fingers all over the place. He wrote the last Star Trek movie, the last Chris Pine, J.J. Abrams universe version, and it was okay. It was like a giant expanded episode from the TV show kind of a thing. Listen, we got a zebra girl out of it, so that was kind of cool.
I like that character and I like that movie.
I
think time will be kind.
I have not seen it in quite some while, but I did enjoy it. So we'll see what's going on with that. I thought that was interesting because they are great characters, but I don't a TV series where they're poking fun at TV series, like how meta can you get at some point where it's, every week they're just going to be out there, a real spaceship now? Or is it going to be the TV show where they're just, I don't know. We do have to talk about this, and I should have probably led with it. The great Richard Donner has passed away at 91. This is a bummer. Damn. What a legacy this guy left, huh?
Just so synonymous with my childhood, lots of others, I'm sure. Superman 1 and 2.
Yeah. Even though he's uncredited on 2. But most of it is his, most of that footage. Yep. The Goonies, Lethal Weapon. And I mean, this guy goes way back. I mean, you're talking Twilight Zone episodes he directed, Gilligan's Island, he's done a couple, Banana Splits, and Get Smart. I mean,
he was in the pantheon of like that Spielberg level kind of director, and they collaborated. Goonies, key case in point.
Yeah, he was executive producer Spielberg on that?
Yep, he was.
Yep, so that is a bummer. And then I have this, which I don't know if you're familiar. There's a comic book series that came out recently, probably within the last year or so, called Something is Killing the Children. Are you familiar with this book?
No, I am not.
This book is hot. This book has gone back several printings of issue 1, probably even the subsequent issues. I know for a fact that issue number 1, CGC graded, is just off the charts. But Mike Flanagan who had directed Doctor Sleep and The Haunting on Hill House, is now co-writing an adaptation for Netflix. So I had to look up what this book was even. So Boom Studios put it out, and it's created by James Tinian IV and Werther Del Adira. And I guess it's just, this town, Archer's Peak, and children are going missing, with those who survive telling horrifying tales of creature attacks. But this apparently is going to be an ongoing series. So
great title.
Yeah.
Is it like an anthology or like a single story?
No, I think it's an ongoing story, but it sounds like you probably have multiple characters. Maybe you're switching point of views if you have multiple kids being taken and coming back, telling their tale. I don't know, but yeah, this is a huge monster in the comic industry right now. So it looks like somebody jumped on it really quick.
Yeah,
they're adapting it, so that means that number one will go up even more. So we'll keep an eye on that.
You know what that would pair nicely with if we were to cover this series? Children shouldn't play with dead things.
You brought that up numerous times. Yeah. You're going to have to tranquilizer me. You're going to trank me and tie me to a chair in order to watch something like that.
It's an early 70s kind of cheese fest zombie homage / ripoff of Night of the Living Dead. So but it's not terrible,
No. Is it better or worse than that? What is it? Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Which I did enjoy. When we did watch it, I did enjoy it. And half of it was because of the girl who I had a crush on when she was in
Kim Darby.
Kim Darby, that's right.
Yeah. It's on an equal playing field, I think, with Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
That's 70s. Was it like was it made for TV?
No, it was a theatrical release directed by Bob Clark, who later went on to do Porky's and A Christmas Story.
Wow, those are two the same director? Made both those movies?
Made all three. They're completely opposite ends of the spectrum.
That's sticking outside your genre, huh? You're just like, screw it. Interesting. All right, and since we're going to go into the Marvel Universe, we're going to end our news with this, which was Kevin Feige, Marvel Studios president, has basically come out, and he was doing this interview, and somebody had talked about these long-term contracts that these actors are tied to. Famously, I think Samuel L. Jackson, 9 movies? Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth. And he said that's pretty much a thing of the past. They're not really doing that anymore. He goes, it varies now, project to project, cast to cast. He goes, really what we want are people that come in, are excited to be in the universe, are excited at the opportunity to do more things, as opposed to being locked into contractual obligations. Maybe we're not setting up another Avengers or...
Right. So in other words, if you love somebody, set them free.
Well, it's crazy when you think about that Scarlett Johansson. She was Iron Man 2 is when she showed up.
Yes. And I was thinking, did they ever refer to her as Black Widow at all in the MCU?
I don't think so. I don't think that she ever, her moniker.
She was always just Natasha, right?
Right. But now we have, we'll get into it. I was going to say there's like a billion Black Widows now. So I just thought that was interesting. And Paul Bettany has come out and he was like, I got nothing more in my contract. I'm done. He goes, I can't imagine that you would introduce the White Vision and not bring him into the universe somewhere along the line, but I know nothing about it. Probably going to see a lot of one and done actors. So you're probably going to see a lot of these bigger name people. Well, we're already starting to see it with like the Angelina Jolies and the Russell Crowes that are going to show up in one of these movies, do a one and done character.
But you have to know going into this that this is an ongoing series. So you may be asked or approached to
but that's where these long-term contracts should come in. Don't back end it and be like, hey, we got another movie coming up and we want your character. Your character's got a big pivotal story arc. Yeah, I can't do it. I'm locked into a TV show. Right.
I'm good. I don't think
right.
So. Yeah.
And then you're screwed. Now you're hindered by contracts. The one thing I thought was interesting was that he even brought up that in the contracts, like even like some of these parks, like the adventure parks, like Marvel's, like I guess Tom Holland, they used him in this new Marvel, what is it, the Marvel park that just opened,
the Avengers campus in California Adventure.
Yeah, that stuff plays into some of the contracts where they're using these people for multiple but as far as movies,
I can just see the fine print. Yeah, and you got to do meet and greet at
right?
California
You got to show
Adventure.
up in character
Yeah.
and just jump around, take a couple pictures with people,
And him telling his agent, "Does it really say that?
right? Yeah, you
You're
should have read it
fired.
better,
You know,
Tom.
you missed that. You're fired."
You mother. What happened to my bowl of green M&Ms? And that is all the news I have, unless you have anything else that you've come up with.
I do not.
And then let's get into it. Because it's
Yeah.
a long time coming.
Black Widow. So first of all, I am surprised that, because again, I do not like to watch trailers of movies that I know I am going to see. So back in pre-COVID days, when I was going pretty regularly to the movies to review films for this podcast, the Black Widow trailer was popping up again and again and again. And I would close my eyes. So I would hear it, but I would
just
not
listen to
actually
it?
see it. I would just listen to it. I didn't get really a sense. I knew it was a prequel, right? Because the character dies in Endgame.
Yeah, exactly. We kind of know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I don't think, like, one of the trailers, the Avengers are mentioned, and then it kind of threw me off because I'm like, all right, wait a minute, where does this fall?
Exactly. Yeah. So I didn't know if this was going to go, and focus on her childhood, on her training as
Right,
an
correct.
assassin. But no, they don't really go there. Of course, they touch on it because you need that backstory to understand what's going on in this movie.
Yeah.
But it's largely taking place directly after the events of Civil War, which
Right.
is really surprising.
Yeah, but I think without going back and watching Civil War, and then this leads into Infinity War, like, it kind of bridges the gap, not so much with the other characters because most of them were under arrest, but it kind of fills her out.
Yeah.
And I think it was smart to do so, but we'll get into it because the end credit, like, if this was supposed to come out a year and a half ago, that end credit makes no sense. Because you would have no point of reference to who this character is.
And we've read previously that, yes, this was the first intended appearance of Julia Louis-Dreyfus as, and I don't even, I hate saying this name.
Hold on,
hate
because I actually wrote it the way that I think that it's supposed to be.
Valentina Allegra de Fontaine.
De Fontaine.
Yes.
Yes, Contessa. My son just refers
Lady
to her as
Hydra.
Lady Hydra.
That's a good
I said,
one.
but they haven't said that. And he goes, that's who it is, Dad. I'm like, all right, fine. Yes.
But you're right, because she comes on as if you're already supposed to know who she is.
So I wonder if they went back and refilmed that.
Maybe.
Knowing why have her reintroduce herself at this point. But if you didn't watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, you would be completely lost. You would not know who this is. You would go home and immediately go, why is Elaine from Seinfeld Black Widow?
Which you were kind of saying that. Why is Elaine from Seinfeld on Falcon and the Winter Soldier when she showed up?
And I'm sorry, we always listen. If this is the first episode you're listening to this show, we spoil the hell out of this stuff. So I am sorry that we did not give you.
Yeah, we opened fully with the end credit sequence.
Yes.
So yeah, apologies.
And the reveal that she's watching Moonraker.
Yeah.
Spoiler. We should just put a big spoiler up front. Nice reverb. So apologies for that, but we do get into this. We do break it down because we are dorky nerds and we can't just skim across the surface.
So the question I'm thinking as I'm watching this, could Marvel have released this directly after Civil War? And would it have had the same impact?
No, I don't think so. Because you think about it, every one of the, except for Hawkeye, every one of the other Avengers had their own movie. Except for Black Widow. I don't know. I mean, if it came out then, I would have been happy. We would have been happy. It would have like tied together. Now I think a lot of this was after the fact. They had to go back and be like, all right, well, we've talked about making a Black Widow movie. Where is it going to fit? Because like you said, it starts, you'd automatically assume that we're going to get her upbringing as one of these widows in the Red Room. We've seen it enough in the flashbacks or whatever in the Avengers.
Right.
And you do get this upfront. I will say this. We have such a shorthand with this universe now because we're 23 movies in,
Mm-hmm.
which is just insane. So to go into the theater and for the first of all, again, we go back to the opening theme. Like I got chills. I'm like, I am actually sitting in my theater in my seat watching a Marvel movie on the big screen again. And I got very excited. But the first 15, 20 minutes, I had no clue what was going on. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is great because you bring in the Hulk, you bring in Thor, all these other characters, and we just start, you're looking for stuff. And I honestly had no clue where they were going with it. And I thought that was great. And I want to talk about the score because this opening scene, this opening sequence where you're introduced to her as 12 maybe? And her little sister and the mom and dad. And then once you when you get into the credit scene, there's this haunting version of Nirvana's "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and I just was like, I'm completely in within the first 10 minutes here. I'm loving what they're doing, and I have no clue what they're doing.
Yeah, and I was unsure, at the beginning, if the girls that we are introduced to were in fact, Natasha, and then what turns out to be her younger sister.
Well, what was bizarre is you get this interaction between the two girls, and obviously, the blonde is a little bit younger than the girl with the blue hair. And you're right, because I think the giveaway was the fact that she had blue hair, because every time you see Natasha on screen, she's changing her hair
color. Her hair color, yeah.
So, I mean, and yeah, she's a spy. She's undercover, which makes perfect sense. But if it goes back to her character as a kid, then I guess it fills it out or even more. But it was almost like the mom was completely ignoring her. And until the dad, exactly. I'm like, is this like a memory that she's walking through? Because again, you had that scene, I don't remember which one it was, where Tony Stark is like watching his younger self, with his dad. And you're like, are we walking through a memory here? Because the one thing we've learned about these movies is you can't trust anything that you're watching.
No, and that was Civil War. And it turns out later, brilliantly, that it was Mysterio that made that whole thing happen and didn't get credit for it. And that's why he was so mad at Tony Stark. So we could go down rabbit holes like this all day long.
Which is brilliant, by the way.
Yeah.
If you want to tie those two universes together. Until the dad comes in and like tosses her hair. Like you're like, no one's even paying attention to this kid.
Yeah, because you know what I thought? You're absolutely correct, because the mom shows up, they're on a playground, and the smaller girl skins her knee when she comes off the slide or what have you. And she runs over to comfort her, and she's ignoring the older girl. And you're thinking, is that even her daughter, the older girl? So is she just playing with the younger kid on the swing?
That they did, eventually I thought they called her by something, but it wasn't Natasha, but I don't know. Without going back and rewatching it. So this is interesting. And of course, it takes place in Ohio in 1995. And again, 1995 does not seem that long ago. I'm like, we're going back to the 60s, right? That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah, I know.
And when you go 95, you're like, wait, then you start crunching the numbers. And you're like, well, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, it's like, I am that much older than Scarlett Johansson.
So yes, 95. This is like straight out of The Americans, if you've ever seen that TV show.
An undercover family living in America. That is not really a family.
No, but you don't realize that at first, because dad comes home and he's just got that look on his face, and the wife is like, oh, today's the day? He's like, yeah, it's happening. So he tells the girls, hey, girls, you remember guy always told you we're going to go on an adventure? Today's the day. But I want to finish eating dinner. No, we got to get out of this house now. And all of a sudden you see they're pulling weapons out of the wall.
And they have an hour to leave, he mentions. So they got to get a move on. Yeah.
And this sequence is fantastic.
Yes.
Because you were right there with those kids. Like, what is going on here? You're not being told anything. And it's funny because Dave Harbaugh, who plays the dad, you're looking at him and you're like, he kind of looks like David Harbaugh, but like a younger, like obviously they're doing some CGI work. They're doing some deep fake younger versions that we saw with Michael Douglas and some of these other characters in these flashbacks. But and I had no clue. The mom is Rachel Weisz. Until I sat down and started doing my IMDb research after I saw the movie. I'm like, wait a minute, that's the same girl from The Mummy?
Are you serious? You didn't recognize her?
No, those eyebrows were throwing me off big time.
But because I never watched the trailer, I didn't know who was in this movie. So, once she appears, I'm like, okay, This is a big name actress. She is coming back. This is not just a throwaway scene that she's in.
I mean, I
in the
did pick up
beginning.
that. Obviously, I knew that David Harbaugh plays a major character.
And let me tell you, he completely redeems himself after the Hellboy debacle. So
I don't think you can blame him for that, though, because you're right. He steals this movie.
yeah,
He is hands down the heart and soul of this film.
And I want to see more Red Guardian. I know I can't get any more Black Widow. I know I can't, but I lament that he never had played any scenes against Chris Evans. And
no,
it would have been hilarious.
Although he's constantly talking about the glory days of fighting Captain America.
Or it's uncertain if he ever in fact met Captain America.
Yeah, because at one point someone's like, "Wait a minute, when did this take place?" No, Captain America was still on the ice. But so he plays Alexei, who is the dad, but he's also the Russia's #1 superhero, who was like their Captain America, Red Guardian.
And for some reason, they have him on a 3-year undercover mission,
in
not
Ohio.
as Red Guardian, but just as the dad of this family. So apparently he's working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and he steals like some information that's on a hard drive.
And then blows up
or on
this
a
facility.
Disk. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you knew it was S.H.I.E.L.D. because you see the S.H.I.E.L.D. moniker
I was gonna say,
on those
you did
Jeeps.
see it on the although I don't think S.H.I.E.L.D. would actually have lights on their vehicles.
Or advertise themselves as S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right, correct. Let's put that big logo right on the side.
But
yeah,
we
they're on
learned
the
that
run.
That mom, Melina, is a pilot. They all get in the plane. Dad is hanging on the side of the plane, and there's a nice chase between the plane and the Jeeps, and they escape.
Yep, mom gets shot, and now Natasha has to step in and fly the plane. And it's like up until that point, there's a scene, right? The S.H.I.E.L.D. cars are closing in, guns are being fired, the plane's trying to get off the ground, and the dad takes this big wagon or something that's in front of the plane and he lifts it and flips it,
and it's the first time that you have any indication that
he has some kind of a superpower. And then you're like, all right, now what the hell is going on? So but they escape, they fly away, they go to Cuba. Right?
Yeah. So he lands, they get out of the plane, and he says to the guy that greets him, "No more undercover work. It's been 3 years."
He's pissed. He's done. Yeah. And he immediately breaks into a Russian accent.
Why can't they just talk Russian and why are they talking English but in a Russian accent?
Because it's fun to listen to. He probably practiced a lot. He probably had a dialect coach.
Yes, he is really fun and funny to listen to and he's just hamming it up. He's chewing on this dialogue. But we also get when they land in Cuba, the girls don't want to be there, especially the younger girl. She's like, "I want to stay in Ohio."
Yeah, but they allude to the fact that Natasha kind of knows more of what's going on. And that's when he sits them down. He's like, "Listen, he's like, you got to stick together."
Yeah, and it completely makes sense now that the mother was doting on the younger child because she needed it.
So they're both tranked and carried off. That's the last we see of them.
Very ominously, the Red Room is your home now.
Yeah, and that was Dreykov, right? Waiting for him. That's Ray Winston. That was Mac, who was in Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, who portrays.
Okay.
Yeah. He's also. Do you want to know something else? He also plays the voice of Mr. Beaver in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Oh, really?
That's a great credit to own, Mr. Beaver. So Ray Winston, all CG up to make him look younger.
Then we get that montage, the opening credits with "Smells Like Teen Spirit,"
and it's phenomenal. It just sets the tone right there, because you see the whole machinations of this Red Room, and these we've seen it in the preview or the flashbacks with her, this training facility where these women are trained to be these warriors, these Black Widows kind of a thing. I mean, young kids, and this is really the only footage that you get in the movie seeing the training of Natasha and the rest of the widows as girls. They only really show it to you in bits and flashes. But it's enough. It's enough
sequence.
for you to understand what they've endured.
And you get it.
I don't need to see these little girls being whipped or being subjugated to,
But you're also seeing like various footage of, riots and different world events, and it's almost like a brainwashing kind of a thing.
Well, you literally see them sitting in front of, computer screens or whatever, and they're drinking their little sippy cups. Yeah, as they're being brainwashed, military leaders with their an X through their head and all kinds of stuff. So so they're being trained.
So then we get a flash forward to post Civil War, which is when the rest of the movie takes place as well. And we get Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah. William Hurt
chasing after the dissident members of the Avengers. So we know Steve Rogers is still on the run at this point. Yeah. The other guys that fell in behind Steve, Ant-Man and what have you, they're on the raft.
They're all on the raft,
presume
right.
at this point. Yeah.
I think it was mentioned that they were already incarcerated.
And Natasha is also on the run, although she is not with Steve. He's mentioned, but you never see him in the movie.
Yeah. And she has this nice little discussion with Ross via phone. You see them kind of breaking into this apartment building. You see her prepping herself. And she's like, why are you doing this? You're looking desperate. Just stop. But then it's all for naught because you find out that she's on her way to Norway. She's already on a ferry in Norway. And he's like somewhere I don't know where he was, but she was nowhere to be found.
She's got a point of contact, that gives her aliases, that provides her with equipment.
Do you know who this guy is? O.T. Fogbennel?
He is on The Handmaid's Tale. If you've ever watched The Handmaid's Tale, he plays Elizabeth Moss's character's husband.
Oh.
So he was immediately familiar to me. Like, I've seen this guy before, and then I realized who it was.
I thought he was fun. I thought Mason, I think, is his character's name.
Yeah, and you can tell he's kind of got a crush going on Natasha that's unrequited.
Come on.
Yeah.
How would you not?
So, but
there's a lonely girl living in a trailer in the middle of Norway all by herself.
But it's established. She makes it clear that she is his client, and that she pays him to provide a service. He gives her whatever she needs in order to exist on the run.
Yeah, was he like a freelance contractor? Like, what is he exactly?
I don't.
Like what's his business card say? Acquirer of rare antiquities.
What is his listing in the Yellow Pages as well?
Right. Yeah, but apparently he's got quite the clientele, so he's got connections.
He does. And then we flash over to Morocco, where we see the widows in action.
This is where we're introduced to
Yelena,
which is the little sister,
played by Florence Pugh.
Now, where have we seen her before? She kills this movie, by the way.
She is in the horror movie Midsummer. So this is like a Wicker Man type movie by the same director as Hereditary. And so she's all over the poster and the advertising. So I've never seen Midsummer.
Neither have I, because I've heard it's very disturbing.
But she's all over the poster and everything else. So I know her from
that poster.
Yes.
With the little thing around her head.
And the tear coming down her face. Yes. Yeah. So she is, on some mission with the rest of the widows, and she's fighting. Oksana is the name of the character.
But she was was she a former widow?
I think she was a former widow. Yelena gets sprayed with a red mist, and it kind of sets her off for a second. Yeah. She has to clear her head, and then suddenly she's awake. Yeah. Now, they don't really explain what's going on here. You don't know if this thing is a poison or what it is. But it's an agent, apparently, that is an antidote to whatever mind control that these widows are suffering through.
Which is weird, because you've got years and years of subjugation and brainwashing, but one powder's enough to snap you out of it.
Within seconds. So she deserts, just like her sister did before her, and suddenly the Taskmaster is initiated. And now Taskmaster is, a character from the books. One of the coolest designs of a villain
Taskmaster
that you can
was hands down my favorite Avengers villain, who has the ability. He's got anything that you can see, you can replicate.
He's unable to replicate, I would assume. Like, say if he's fighting Captain America, he wouldn't be able to assimilate his super strength, right? His super soldierness. He would just have to mimic his moves.
Yeah. Because you saw that with the shield a couple times, you're flipping it up, as Captain America does and whatever.
Right.
Mimics to the point where when he does fight Natasha at one point. I mean, it's point to point. It's whatever she does, he automatically is doing it. When you first introduced to him, he's sitting in front of a TV screen watching a fight. It's assuming that he's taking notes or whatever, and they plug something in the back of his head, and you're like, oh, is this guy just some kind of a robot? Because it's all in armor, and he's got like this skull face mask kind of a thing. So you never see if it's a real human, is it something else kind of a thing. But yeah, I think Taskmaster was is a character that people were very excited to see in this.
Yes, yeah, I was as well. So after we get the Yelena defection, we flash over to Norway, and that's where Natasha has gone. She's still on the run from Ross, and she's in a little trailer in Norway. And this is where we see her, in her downtime. What does she do? She watches James Bond movies on the computer.
Yeah, homework, apparently.
And she's reciting the dialogue. So she knows them well enough.
She's seen it a few times.
So what she's watching is Moonraker,
yeah.
which is a much maligned James Bond
movie. It is one of my
movie.
It is one of my
But,
favorites. Well,
yeah.
that's James Bond capitalizing on Star Wars. Let's get him up into space.
Yep.
And that's why I loved it.
Yeah, of course. You really have to give it to Moonraker, because at the time it was like the most popular James Bond movie.
Right, because people like me who didn't know James Bond or cared about him suddenly wanted to go see this. I remember the Starlog issue with him. He's in space. He's in a spacesuit, floating above the Earth.
And how can you deny, Richard Kiel as Jaws?
Jaws should have been in every freaking Bond movie. Because after a while, that's the one where he gets his girlfriend, right?
Yes, that's
Holly Goodhead.
No, Holly Goodhead is the Bond girl in the movie, but I don't remember the girl's name, but she had pigtails. Yeah. It was like Cindy from the Brady Bunch.
The Brady Bunch. I brought home. Look who I brought home, Dad. Is that also the one where he gets attacked by the giant anaconda?
Yes, that's the scene that she's watching. That's like immediately after. Snake attack.
Yeah, because he's already on the space station with. Okay, so yeah, we almost paired that up. That would have been good.
But when that came on and I saw what she was watching, it was like,
because it is a tip of the hat, because this is very Bondish. It's more Bourne Identity, because once those Bourne movies,
but in itself, the Bourne movies are really high-tech James Bond movies, even higher tech James Bond movies.
I think I'm talking more about the way an action sequence is played out. Like those Bourne, like you take all those James Bond movies and they are James Bond, and even like the Daniel Craig stuff or whatever. But once those Bourne movies came out, like there's such a shorthand with these close action, and it's a lot of tight cuts and a lot of fisticuffs, and it just like it changed the genre.
It changed James Bond, because I think the Daniel Craig movies are taking their cue from the Bourne.
You have to step. You can't keep doing the same roundhouse punches as you're doing in the 60s.
And and we can talk more about this in Octopussy, but there's a charm to that old school Roger Moore judo chop, Yes,
right. Yeah, so this is where, she's kind of like laying low in this trailer. She's got this guy who's bringing her all kinds of stuff. And the one thing he brings is this box from Budapest of like her leftover stuff. So
because there's an apartment that she was keeping in Budapest. Right. Apparently, and that he brings her mail, her unopened mail.
If I'd known you were going to bring that, I would have told you to throw it away. The one thing you didn't mention about Yelena is the fact that when she takes out the other agent, or Oksana, she's handed a fistful of vials, these red vials. So she has multiple. She doesn't just the one that releases Yelena from her mind control. She now has maybe a dozen and a half or so handed to her.
I really had to go back. Now we're going a little bit forward now. It's Melina that has developed this serum. Am I incorrect about that?
Yeah, no, that is exactly that. She was part of this.
It's kind of like, a Rogue One kind of a thing, where not only are they building the Death Star, but they're also giving
the booby trap in it.
Yeah, putting the booby trap in there as well.
Yeah. And there's a couple of little sleight of hands that we've seen before in these damn Marvel movies that I didn't see coming, because it plays out one way. And then, of course, Mission Impossible, the multiple face masks and all the other, I'm not really who you think I am kind of a thing going on, which caught me off guard a little bit. So I don't really know if it works 100%, but I didn't give it a shit because I was very enthralled with this movie. I enjoyed it.
The downtime, especially all the scenes where like the sit down scenes with the family as they are in present or Civil War times, are the best parts of the movie. Florence Pugh is amazing,
Yeah,
and I'll give her all the credit in the world.
Yeah.
She's no Red Guardian. Loved him.
Yeah. At one point, she actually calls him Crimson Dynamo, which I thought was great because that's yet another Russian superhero who I think he was like armor though, so he was mostly like up against Iron Man.
Maybe they'll do another one where we can actually, I doubt it'll ever happen, see a battle between Red Guardian and Captain America, but
you're not going to see, maybe in one of those what ifs that's coming out.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think either one of them are in fight. He's definitely not in fighting shape right now.
No.
Just the sequence where he's trying to put his old costume back on was hysterical because all I can think of is Bob from The Incredibles trying to pull back into his...
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So getting back to Natasha and her box of mail, she doesn't know it, but in one of those packages are the red vials that Yelena was handed.
This to me is right up Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, where the father mails Indy his diary with all the notes in order to find the Grail, and he immediately takes it back with him to go find it. And because when she does run into Yelena, she's like, "You brought it back? Like I sent it away for a reason."
Yeah.
You brought it with you?
Taskmaster knows that she's got the red vials. So Taskmaster comes after Natasha just as
why did he wait until she... Yeah, it wasn't like he mailed it. He could have just taken this other guy out at any point.
He could have easily got it from this guy.
I was gonna say he's no opponent whatsoever.
But maybe the Taskmaster wasn't initiated soon enough in order for that to happen.
Yeah.
We see this very nice set piece, an initial bridge battle between Taskmaster and Natasha. Now, I actually made a note. I felt that Taskmaster, I can't explain it, but just from the movements, I'm like, this is a woman in this armor, that this is a woman, definitely.
Interesting.
And so they had maybe the actress portraying the character all the way through, even though
it might have been a female stunt actor as well. I didn't pick up on that, but it was very apparent that Natasha was kind of not out of her league, but at a disadvantage with this character.
As the fight goes on, it's anticipating Natasha's every move because it's mimicking her fighting style.
Right. And it's probably watched footage of her. And this is a running joke, which I absolutely love. This goes all the way back to the very first Iron Man 2, the introduction of Black Widow, is that when the sister, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but when the sister, when they're reunited, she starts making fun of her, like her hero landing. So what is this? Whenever you like land, you flip your head back, like you're posing, like you're just assuming people are watching you. She's like, what is this all about? And it becomes like this running joke that she's a poser, and I loved it because it just kind of like take Natasha down a notch a little bit.
And the pose that she's talking about is the classic still from Iron Man 2 that you always see with Black Widow
dropping from the ceiling.
When she first reveals herself in Iron Man 2, she does that pose, when she reveals herself as Black Widow and not Tony Stark's assistant.
Yeah. And she does it at least once or twice in this movie.
Yeah.
And gets called out. And then at one point, Yelena tries it and is like, that's so stupid.
After the fight on the bridge, Natasha loses. She gets thrown off the bridge and cleared from Taskmaster, so that ends the fight once Natasha's off the bridge.
She still has the vials, though.
She still has the vials.
Yeah, she took them out. She was smart enough to take them out of the case. Taskmaster thought mission accomplished. Not so much.
Yep, and by this time Natasha's gone. She makes it to Budapest.
What is why? What is up with the mispronunciation that she keeps calling it Budapest?
Well, maybe that is the right pronunciation, and we pronounce it wrong because she insists that because the Rick Mason says Budapest. No, it's Budapest.
Yeah.
So that's probably the way that you really should pronounce it.
Wow.
But she makes it to the apartment and Yelena is there. Now, it sets off a fight that's very Pink Panther-ish,
Yes.
when Inspector Clouseau comes. Kata. So I'm like,
and they're
why
evenly,
go through
and again,
this,
they're
you know?
very evenly matched because obviously they're
Evenly matched, but why fight at all? You know, there's no
stupid.
reason for you to
This
fight.
is every superhero. Remember every Marvel superhero team up. You know, you'd have
They
the
gotta
Thing in
fight
Spider-Man,
first,
and
yeah.
they would always fight and have some misunderstanding, and then they got to come together.
It's not even friendly sister fighting. It's like they're trying to kill
No,
each
they're
other.
literally
fighting.
like choke each other out. Their knives are being
Until
thrown.
one of them says truce. Okay. And then
Oh,
they
there you
stop.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, truce? Okay, we'll
Truce?
stop.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they find out there's issues between the two of them because Natasha defected when she did. She didn't take Yelena.
Never
you
called
left
her
me
either.
behind.
She's like, you never even came back to look for me. Where did you think I was? Oh, I just assumed you broke free.
You've got all these super friends, the guy from space,
Super
you know,
friends,
yeah.
Oh, that was great. Yeah. But this is where we find out that part of this Budapest mission that's been brought up multiple times between her and Hawkeye, Clint Barton, was to take out this what's his name?
Dracoff,
who runs the Red Room. And that was the mission. That's where she first met Hawkeye, and he helps her defect, right? They take this guy down, and then she comes over and works for S.H.I.E.L.D.
And she not inadvertently, because the guys,
she purposely.
Yeah, so they're about to blow up Dracov's office, and this is how she defects to S.H.I.E.L.D., as Jeff just said. So this is like her ticket out of the Widow program. So unfortunately, just as she's about to hit the button on the explosive, the guy's daughter, who's like 7 or 8 years old,
comes home from school
and also goes into his office, and she has no choice. She has to take him out.
You got to take the
So she kills his daughter.
Kills everybody, blows up the entire building, and just goes on with their life. And Yelena's like, did you think that the Red Room just went away? And that's where she finds out that maybe this guy is still alive, that she didn't complete her mission.
Yeah. As they're having this discussion in the apartment, they're dropping to, you're not really my sister, which you kind of knew already because it was, a whole setup with the family.
Right. Yeah. But to Yelena's point, and later on when the four of them are back together, you've got Alexei, who was like, it was a 3-year mission. I hated it. You know what? I wasn't in costume. I wasn't doing anything. And Yelena's like, you know what? You guys are all fighting. You're arguing over what was fake. She goes, but it was real to me. I was a little kid. You were my family. You were my parents. You were my sister. You know what? Fast and Furious might have cornered the market on family, but this family dynamic I absolutely loved. I thought this was fantastic. And like you said, the downtime, because this is a Black Widow movie, but Black Widow really takes a back seat 3/4 of the way through this with these other characters. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, it's not. Not at all. Not at all.
I absolutely loved. And you know, even before the end credits roll, that they are setting up Yelena as a potential replacement, because we know that Natasha's dead. This is the one thing that kind of hangs over this whole movie, is that you already know she's dead.
And this is why, because I raised the point earlier, could they have put this movie, immediately after Civil War? And I think, obviously, you wouldn't have that poignant aspect knowing that she is dead, that this is probably the last time you're going to see the character, which raises the bar on this even that much more when you're watching it.
But it does make you wonder why they didn't have a ceremony for her when they did for Tony Stark at the
Well,
end
yeah, I
of
was
Endgame.
looking at some stuff online, and they kind of explained that away. I don't know if it was Feige
really?
or someone else. Well, she's a very private person. She wouldn't have wanted a funeral, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, it was in her will?
Yeah. At least give her a memorial service,
Correct. Yeah, it was just a bunch of, superhero friends hanging out. Okay, I want to go back for 1 second, only because this was such a nerd moment, and my son killed it for me. So during the Taskmaster fight on the bridge, we know for a fact that this character can emulate other superheroes. There's a point, I think, where she does something where she shoots. Maybe it wasn't in that scene, and he almost pulls off like a Spider-Man type of a move. We see the Captain America shield or whatever. He's emulating Natasha's fighting style, but there's one point where he takes his claws and he like crosses his arm and he snicks them out, and I'm like, holy! They just pulled a Wolverine, and my son's like, Dad, that's Black that's Black Panther. That's a Black Panther move. And I'm like, damn it. I was looking forward to like an X-Men reference of some sort.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, so cross that off the list. That was not what I thought it was.
He's right. That's
Yeah.
a T'Challa move.
Yeah, I know. I just got ahead of myself.
So the next big sequence is Red Guardian in prison. And he's telling stories. He's telling tales out of school about...
While he's beating one after the other doing arm wrestling.
Yes.
Without breaking a sweat, by the way. So he apparently does have the super serum.
Or
I don't know. I don't really know his origins, but
a bootleg
he is,
version of the super serum. I don't know.
But like you said, this character, like he's literally getting a tattoo. He's covered in tattoos. He's getting another tattoo on his back as he's arm wrestling,
and as he's telling this story about facing down Captain America and the guy that he's arm wrestling says, "When did this happen again?"
Right.
I don't know. 93, 94. Yeah. Captain America was still in the ice then, and so he gets mad that he got he's called out on his boastful stories. So you never really know if this guy ever even, saw Captain America with his own two eyes.
No, because where would that have fallen? The two girls decide they need to go break out Alexei because he has to know where this red room is. Nobody knows where this red room is. Apparently it still exists. There are still all these girls being trained, much to, I guess, Natasha, just once she blew it up, never looked back, never looked into it, made sure
right, because Yelena was still a widow up until that
still
scene.
Part of it, right?
Yeah,
and that was part of why she was pissed off at Natasha, because she's like, you never came back and looked for me. You blew up one building and then just said that mission accomplished.
And you never really get the sense. So okay, a little bit later on, we realize that it's a mind control thing going on. Are the girls aware that they're being mind controlled, but they can do nothing to stop it? Or are they just automatons, and not question it internally? It seemed there were some sequences where it seemed like they were trying to fight it. They were trying to fight it, but they couldn't.
Yeah. So, but she asked this guy, Mason, she wants a jet to go break out Alexei, which looks like it's in a Siberian tundra somewhere.
Yeah.
It's in the middle, it's in the...
Which is funny because this is seemingly where his character in Stranger Things ends up.
It ends up, but that'd be great if that just tie the whole two universes together. But all Mason can get is a helicopter, but there's no other way they would have been able to get him out if they had a fighter jet. They could not have done what they did. Like, can you really park a helicopter?
Well, if they had like the Quinjet, they could have done it.
Well, that's something else.
And at the end, he does provide.
He does give her a Quinjet because it does tie right when she goes to save everybody. But like Yelena puts this thing in cruise control so she can take out the tower with the gun. And I'm like, can you do that with a helicopter? Can you just park it? Like, just let it sit
and just like air? Step away from the controls.
So, but again, this is a great action sequence because they end up sending a communication to Alexei. They're talking to him in his ear. This is what you need to do. Don't make a scene. Of course, he makes a scene. Now everyone sees him escaping, so they're all running. She's trying to, just get him out. And this is a really nice, fun sequence.
And it's funny because the way that they get the earpiece to him is they send him through the prison guard, like legitimately, a Red Guardian action figure, which he is so pleased with before he even realizes that
he's actually pressing a little button. He pulling the strings, and then the head pops off, and sure enough, there's an earpiece in there.
Yes.
So,
great set piece as the guards are firing on the helicopter, and Alexei, like Donkey Kong, has to make his way up to the helicopter in order to, and then an avalanche is happening at the same time.
Yeah, she blows up that tower and sets off an avalanche because it really isn't kind of like this moon-shaped valley.
Like a valley, yeah.
Yeah, so it's completely so you got this cascading avalanche coming. So it's a fun sequence. Like I said, there's these set pieces that are really nice, but there's a lot of downtime in between, and I'm sure that there are people who complain about that. So
I complain about them.
I did see on IMDb there's a lot of people who probably sat home on Disney Plus and just tore this apart. We waited this long for this. That shouldn't play into it.
We should name them the Dwarf Coalition from this point on.
The Dwarf Squad.
Yeah. But the thing is that Alexei, he doesn't know where the Red Room is either. So now they've broken him out just to hear him, complain and tell the stories.
Oh, and this is great. The two girls that got the headgear on, they're flying out of here, and he's just going off, and he's like, "Oh, you cannot hear me, can you?"
Because he says to Natasha, "Did Captain America talk about me?"
Right. That's the first thing he wants to know. She's like, "I haven't seen you in 20 years. That's what you want to ask about?" Oh man.
So since he doesn't know where the Red Room is, they now have to go to Mom and see
Mom's
if she's
still alive. We thought she was dead. They don't
Yeah.
even know that Melanie.
Melina. Again, played by Rachel Weisz.
Yes.
So she is in St. Petersburg, not Florida, by the way.
On a pig farm.
Yeah.
With one hell of a weapon. That gun could have taken out. That was a serious weapon.
But I did write down a line of dialogue that Alexei had in the helicopter. You've killed, or maybe it was actually at Melina's, but he says to her, "You've killed so many people. Your ledgers are dripping red. I couldn't be more proud."
Yeah. But that goes back to the Avengers. When Loki is goading her, Loki actually mentions Dreykov's daughter.
And we talked about this when we were talking Avengers. He talks about Budapest as well. Yeah. So, and we're excited thinking that we're going to see all this play out. And we do to an extent.
Right. Because, when they're in the safe house and she goes, "What kind of gun made those bullets?" She goes, "Oh, it wasn't a gun. It was an arrow, bow and arrow."
Yeah.
So you get enough groundwork that I don't think we need to see it play out to understand what happened.
So, yeah, what we don't get in this movie is
Hawkeye.
We're it's talked about, but we don't see that relationship between Hawkeye and Natasha.
No, but I think that's already been established in all these other movies. Their relationship is pretty tight.
So we visit Melina at the pig farm, and so this is where we get the first of quite a few family reunion scenes. The dynamic between them, first the awkwardness, and then like falling back into those familial roles is the high point of the movie.
Yeah. And at one point, Melina shows that she's doing some kind of brain manipulation with these pigs, and she can tell him to do stuff and he doesn't. So you're starting to get a sense that she is somehow involved with this brainwashing aspect of
that she came up with how they do it.
But the fact that he finds out that the pig's name is Alexei, he goes, "You named a pig after me."
Yeah.
She goes, "Why? You don't see the resemblance?"
Yeah.
And then you just cut to his face, and then you cut to the pig's face, and they're making the same face.
Yes. And you do get a sense that they had some sort of relationship.
Oh yeah, because he goes, "Oh," she goes, "You got fat, but you're still nice." And the girls are like, "All right, stop. This is disgusting."
Right. And he says, "You are just as beautiful and supple as the day they staged our marriage."
What I said to my wife every day. But the one thing we didn't talk about, which was, going back to the opening sequence when these girls were little, Yelena, as they're driving away, racing for their life, Yelena's like, "Can I hear my song?" And it's Don McLean's American Pie. And they all start singing it. And he brings that back because Yelena's like pissed off. Yelena's like, "My whole childhood was a lie. And you people are all jerks. And I just want to be left alone." So she storms off. He follows after her. She doesn't want anything to do with him. And he just plops in the corner. And you see this coming a mile away. You see it coming a mile away. He starts singing American Pie. And one of the lines is, "Until the day I die." And as soon as you hit that note, boom, big lights come. I was waiting for an explosion, but you do get the big lights. And sure enough, they've been ratted out.
Yeah, Melina says to Natasha at one point, "I've already, alerted the Red Room. They're on their way."
Alerted them. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, and Yelena is not only mad at Natasha for leaving her, but she's mad at Melina for actually coming up with the serum that mind controlled her and all the other widows.
Yeah, I was part of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. You let me be a part of it. And even Natasha at one point, she has this little heart to heart with the mom. And she's like, how did you get out of this, without losing your soul? And she's like, "I listened to, what you taught me. You don't lose your heart," which we hear her say early on in the movie. So there's really nice character beats between these four.
And you get a sense of Melina's character because she says that she was a survivor of the Red Room, probably before they came up with the mind control.
Like multiple, like thrice around she ended up going through the program or something.
So we don't really get Dreykov that much in this movie. We see him
No,
in
I
the
don't think
beginning.
he's just a big bad that's kind of overloaded. You know, he's a big slobby Harvey Weinstein jerk sitting behind a desk.
Yeah.
You know, with nameless women up on the screen.
But Melina, there's one really chilling line that she has before she says, you know, the Red Room are on their way. She says that the girls, the widows, they're picked as infants because of their genetics. So from babies, and they're sold to Dreykov and this program.
Yeah, this is interesting because I think we were led to believe, well, when she's in Voromir, doesn't the Red Skull tell her who her father is? But in this, she wants to know who her mother is, and she finds out because she assumes that she was abandoned.
Right.
And that's not the case, which was the fact that she was chosen for this program because of her genetic disposition, that she was identified as a candidate due to, you know, genetic markers or, you know, potential that she had within her. And so more than likely, you know, they either bought her, you know, from the parents, but it sounds like the dad maybe was complicit, but the mom, on the other hand, was very adamant about trying to find her. And Dreykov goes out of his way to say that, yeah, your mom was an issue. She would not give up, and we had to kill her.
Yeah, I would get the impression that they would kill them anyway, even after they paid them off.
Right?
You know?
Yeah, pay them off and then just shoot them. Take the money
take
back.
the money. Yeah.
Yeah, they did not seem like, you know.
They give the same briefcase of money to every single set of parents.
Every single person. Yeah, because you want no witnesses. Yeah, it's like if you had a daughter and all of a sudden she was no longer there, your neighbors would be like, hey, what happened to little Susie? She's with her aunt, never to come back.
So the Red Room, well, in, you know, not the Red Room itself, but they show up to Melina's. Sooner than later, they actually find out the secret location of the Red Room. And this is where we get another tie to Moonraker, which is, you know, coming up on Drax's space station.
That's no moon. That's a space station.
This is sort of like the helicarrier, but it's like just floating in the upper reaches of the sky.
Nobody has radar.
No.
Yeah,
well, you'd assume if they have the technology to put this up there that they can.
I guess they probably
radar cloaking devices, right?
There was a cloud around it, so
yes.
It's like, I thought I saw something. Oh, it's just a cloud.
Yeah, and then of course Lando comes out to greet them as they. You rascal, you.
There you go. Hi, Chewbacca. How you doing? Oh, that would have been awesome. So yeah, they're all captured. And you think that the mom has turned them in?
Yeah, so I was asking
cells.
myself, is the mom still brainwashed? But no, there's a little bit more going on here than meets the eye.
This is where they go into Mission Impossible territory here.
Yeah. So,
but again, we've seen this technology before. I can't. It's not like they pulled it out of their hats. We've seen that they have this ability, or at least Natasha does. Whether these things are just in her back pocket, I have no idea how this technology works. But.
Yeah. And you don't really get a huge sense of it from this either. It's just like you're presented it, and now you've got to buy it. You know.
Yeah, you just buy into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So now Natasha, she's in the Red Room, and she gets her chance to face down Dreykov. And this is really the first substantial scene where you see Ray Winstone as the character, and he is just. Like you said, he's slovenly. He's a jerk.
He's like right in her face. He's like, one millisecond away from like licking her cheek or something.
Yeah. And he's telling her about how she asks her mother's name and she tries to kill him, but she can't because, and this is so creepy, that because she's smelling him, her olfactory senses, she's smelling his pheromones. So there's something, ingrained already within her that they've planted. She can't hurt him. It's almost like a Clockwork Orange kind of a thing where
he's got like this, I don't know, cloaking device.
She tries to shoot him, she can't. She tries to stab him, she can't. Like her hand stops literally, it freezes.
Yep. Yeah.
And then she asks what her mother's name is, and he tells her we put her in a grave under a tree. And what did her tombstone say? Unknown.
Jerk. Okay. But she does suss out the fact that he controls this keyboard or whatever with the ring on his finger, and
and just like it's fabulous because just like Loki, she completely plays him during this scene.
And this is a nice callback to that scene.
And and the audience doesn't realize what she's doing.
No, you have no clue what's going on right now because you think that the mom and dad are both, and Yelena are all trapped up. No, did Yelena get loose? Was she running around the station at that point? Or they were all they were at least they were in cells.
Yelena is trying to find at this point because she
the tractor beam,
and then they go to try to find the antidote. So Yelena's running around, she escapes and is looking for the
oh, there it is, right there in the fridge where he left it.
Yeah,
right next
perfect.
to the fridge, right next to the milk and eggs.
So then we get the reveal, the face-off reveal, and talk about Mission Impossible. It's complete Mission Impossible too, rip off the fake face.
Aha! It's not really me at all.
Yeah.
It's Ethan Hunt.
And so then we get the reveal that Taskmaster is actually Dreykov's daughter. So Natasha never killed the daughter, that she was so badly wounded that she had to become like half robot, half human, almost like RoboCop in the Taskmaster outfit. So she's got a chip in her head, and she is controlled very much like a RoboCop and with this mind control stuff.
Yeah.
So she is Dreykov's like #1 soldier.
This was a little bit of a letdown for me.
What, the reveal?
The reveal. Yeah. It's, I get it, because they kept making a point that this, this ghost of this little girl, that she was, collateral damage, as much as she says, weighed on her, that she had to take that little girl out. But it's even worse to find out, not only did you not kill her, you just maimed her to the point where now the dad manipulates and is abusing you on a daily basis.
Yeah. But before we get there, I didn't mention that, the reveal that Dreykov does without realizing it is he tells Natasha that what's going on and how he controls the widows. So he brings up like a, very James Bondian villain map of the world and all the widows, like you see them where they're placed all throughout the world. It's very much like on Her Majesty's Secret Service when Blofeld has all of his angels of death. So that was a direct callback to that movie for me. And then so Natasha obviously now knows how he controls them and how she can shut off the programming. And
they do kind of flashback, because all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, how is this? And then you flash back to the mom and Natasha in the house, the safe house with the pigs, before the Red Room descends upon them, and they switch places. They put these masks on, and the mom's explaining to Natasha what she needs to do, and that yes, he has this ability to control you with these pheromones or whatever, and you have to sever the nerve, you have to break the connection. So she literally smashes her face into the desk to break her nose. She must have a detailed knowledge of the human anatomy to know, well, if I break my nose, and that's going to sever my olfactories.
And so because Melina had a hand in developing this floating Red Room, apparently, she also knows how to bring it into a controlled crash, as she says, although it didn't look very controlled to me.
No, she just took out one of the engines. She just shot. She was on one of the little gantries and just shot the engine out.
The widows come rushing into Dreykov's office, but Elena has already gotten the antidote by this time, so she's able to release it, like in one big blast. So the widows that attack all wake up.
But now this thing's in free fall.
So, this is, harking back to Age of Ultron as well. With the
these giant things falling from the sky. And we get the chase through the air.
Yeah, now this is another callback to Moonraker, which opens, it's because all the James Bond movies obviously have a pre-credits action sequence. After you see the shot down the barrel of the gun in James Bond. Yeah. So Moonraker's pre-credits action sequence is an aerial battle after jumping out of a plane, because Yelena is thrown off the deck of the Red Room.
Drop the thing into the engine of the plane, blowing it up and blowing her off the side, and then Dreykov and all of his minions get blown up.
And then Natasha leaps off after her to save her.
Because you can actually catch up to anybody who's free falling by just, doing a bullet move.
Yeah,
controlling yourself like you're a flying squirrel.
And then Taskmaster jumps off. So there's, a full-on
that
flight.
Armor's got to be super heavy, by the way. You would just plummet like a rock.
I know. Yeah, I don't think a parachute would save you wearing that armor.
No, but and then they fight fisticuffs, but they land successfully. We're landing on pieces of debris as they're falling and fighting on those. It's nice to look at.
And unfortunately, we do see the end of the Taskmaster character.
Do we?
Or do we?
That's right, because she does have one vial left in freezer.
Now, even though the widows were shut off after Dracov's computer was compromised, they would still need the antidote
Yeah, because I think what she ended up, she had one vial left that she gave Yelena and told her to go and mass produce
to
it.
go
so
mass
you can get-
okay, to go mass produce it. So the girls that they actually do release that were in the Red Room come back in the
Yeah.
jet to save them.
And that's a nice little callback that they
So the whole
actually-
family, so you're thinking, oh no, they're going to die at the end of this movie, but no,
after
the
all
whole
that, no.
family survives at the end. And now Natasha has called Ross, or she has activated her tracker or something. So Ross is going to show up to the Red Room, to the remaining, soldiers or whatever, to arrest them. And he takes a sweet time in getting there, and the family aren't in any rush, it appears.
No,
to
they're
actually
able. Yeah, you
leave.
see this convoy come up over the hill, and they're all saying their goodbyes, their loves to each other, or whatever.
And it ends on the lightning bugs, the lightning bugs in the
That we
trees
see at the
because
beginning, yeah.
that we see at the beginning. So
The tree stars, she called them.
and
right? Something like
I'm
that.
maybe programmed, maybe Marvel has mind controlled me, but every single Marvel movie, I always end it. That was the best one I've seen yet. Every single one.
You were just deprived for so
Maybe
long.
not. Well, maybe not Winter Soldier. That's still.
It's
that's
funny
still
because
number one.
this is being compared to Winter Soldier. This is no Winter Soldier by any means.
You could say that about any MCU movie, though.
No, but you're not comparing Ant-Man as Winter Soldier level. It does have that level. It's an on the ground espionage kind of feel to it. It's not as cosmic as some of the other stuff, but it's not Winter Soldier level.
So it ends with Rick Mason, the contractor that Natasha hires. He does actually get her a Quinjet at the end,
Right.
not the Quinjet, but a Quinjet.
A Quinjet.
So it's suggested that she is on her way to the raft to
Yeah,
deal with.
well, she says point blank, I have two families. One of them's, broken right now, and I think that I need to go fix it.
But here's the thing: is that was it because of her that Ant-Man was on house arrest? Because he wasn't broken out; he was legitimately on house arrest at his house in.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
He wasn't a
I'm not
fugitive.
questioning it. I'm not questioning it.
I don't know.
Unless you're going to sit and watch these all in order.
Yeah.
We could tear them apart.
But then we get the post credits. So it's Yelena visiting Natasha's grave. So it's post now Endgame.
So we get this little speech between the two of them because obviously there's this great sequence where they're explaining to Alexei that part of the program involves them having hysterectomies where they literally pull out all their reproductive organs so they can't have kids. But there's a scene with the two girls talking about, if they were going to have kids or if they did, and Yelena's like, I have this whole story that my sister moved out Midwest or whatever, and my parents do this. Like, she created this backstory for herself. And that's where she buried Natasha, is in the Midwest somewhere in like this nondescript, but people must have known it was there because it was full of all kinds of trinkets and flowers.
It's like Jim Morrison's grave in Paris. It's like anybody can go to it and put flowers on it.
Yeah, it's like underneath a bunch of trees or whatever. But this is where we all of a sudden see Julie Louis-Dreyfus's character, Contessa.
And she's blowing her nose as if she's crying, but then she's like, these allergies,
Yeah, I'm allergic to the Midwest, she says.
So you already know that she's heartless, that she doesn't care that her sister is grieving.
But it makes you wonder who's in the grave. She died on a planet, another planet. Did Hawkeye bring her body back?
Yeah, he did. No, it would have been impossible.
Right. He took that soul stone and got the hell out of there.
Yeah. So we're thinking that this is going to play right into the Hawkeye series.
Yeah, it has to be.
Valentina hands Yelena a photo of Cliff Barton.
Here's
Hawkeye.
your next assignment.
Yeah.
So she works for her already.
So this is the guy that's responsible for your sister's death. Is
How
he,
does
though?
she know that? How does she know that? Did he go back and be like, oh, yeah, by the way, I was going to sacrifice myself, but Nat said no, and she jumped instead. He's the only person that could tell this story. So how is she blaming him for this?
Maybe we'll find out. Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah, but you're right. This obviously is going to lead right into the Hawkeye series. I can't say enough about the score though. I thought the score, especially during the end credits, you sit because we're all sitting through the end credits now, waiting for the little post credit scene. And I just, he's got full orchestra, he's got full choir going on, doing the chants or what, it's very Russian feeling. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was good.
Lauren Balfe, I think, is the guy who was responsible for the score. So I did see, sitting through the credits, there was at least 7 FX houses that were attached to this working on it. So it's a lot of work.
And you think to yourself that each one of these people that you see have to get paid. And so this is, the budget that you always hear of, like whoever $100 million, that's, the lion's share of it goes to paying all these people that you see going.
Oh yeah, you just see just a list of names of artists.
Yeah.
Each one of those FX houses, hundreds of people involved. Yeah. So this is the first MCU movie to be a PG-13.
Really? Nothing has been PG-13 before this?
That's what I read. So it must be true. It was on the internet. Yes. Speaking of that, Owen Gleiberman actually gave this a positive review on Variety.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
He must have been hard up for entertainment because that guy's a curmudgeon.
Did you get any quotes? Did he say anything especially good?
No, there was nothing. He had no snarky comments whatsoever. He actually was it was positive, and I'm like, I'll give him that.
I wrote down a couple of quotes from different reviews. CNN did say, and we mentioned this already, feels like Marvel's version of a Jason Bourne movie.
There you go. Which is not a bad thing.
No.
You could say the same thing about Winter Soldier to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Because it's boots on the ground. It's hand-to-hand personal combat. It's not superheroes flying in the air punching. You know what I'm saying? They're not punching each other. It's not Man of Steel.
Yeah. I would personally say more so than Jason Bourne, and they hand it to you. It's a James Bond movie. Yeah. And also Brian Tellerico of RogerEbert.com says that Pugh is the film's MVP. And I won't argue with that, but I would, again say maybe co-MVP,
David Harbaugh is really shining through in this. And like you said, with the stink of Hellboy still on him, because there's a lot of times in Stranger Things, he doesn't really have a lot to do. His character reacts,
because he's just
the
dad,
protective dad. He's the protective dad. These kids are out doing all these adventures and he just has to react to that. But this, he really, like you said, there are times where he's just chewing it up, but that's what makes this character so great. We've never seen a character like this. This is like a Ben Grimm type of a character. Yeah. Boastful, talking about Yancey
Imagine
Street.
if he's recruited and he becomes an Avenger.
See him now as Ben Grimm.
I want to see him as an Avenger. I think that he should be part of the team. He should be in every
slim
movie.
Up. He's him and Fat Thor better start going to Planet Fitness.
All right, how many popcorn buckets out of 5?
This is hard for me because I think I originally went 3.5. And I don't know. This was very enjoyable. There are, the reveal of Taskmaster was a bit of a letdown. Even the end with the face reveal and all this other stuff seemed a little too convenient for me. But it all works. I'm going to stick with my 3.5.
3.5, really?
Yeah.
I'm going to go 4.25.
Wow.
Like I said.
Okay.
Every single Marvel movie, I come out thinking that this is the greatest one I've seen so far. And, this really brought me back to Winter Soldier. So I really liked that espionage feel.
You're a huge James Bond fan.
Yes,
as well.
And that elevated it.
And it could be, listen, they could have done without the little TV screen Moonraker, and you would have been like, this is Bond. But they're like, no, this is a Bond.
Yeah.
They're literally giving it to you.
Yeah. If you haven't figured it out yourself, this is a Bond. Yeah.
It's directed by a woman. We didn't even talk about her, Kate Shortland. I don't know what she has done before, but very very well executed. I had no issues with the directing whatsoever. And this is, women powered. Let's take down the patriarchy. Look what's been done to us, and we need to make things right. And listen, this Dreykov is about as scummy as they come. So,
and
stick around.
you want to see him get punched in the face?
I know.
Whatever.
It's almost she did get a couple nice. Well, when he was punching her. Oh, it's cringeworthy when he's punching her, and you're like, but to just get blown up on the plane is a bit of, it's not very cathartic.
Right.
What
You
want to
see him
done
punished.
to all these characters, and that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of little girls out there that he has not physically, personally abused, but he has abused, and you want to see retribution be a little more severe. You wanted to see him hogtied and picked apart by crows. I do need some coffee before we go into the next feature. Here we go. We're going right into James Bond, Octopussy.
Let's go to the concession stand, and we will be back with a classic James Bond, Octopussy.
Is it?
Hey, any Bond in my book could be considered a classic, some more than others,
true.
but this deserves a second look. I think it's one of the unsung ones, but we'll get into it.
Well, we got a second look, so we'll be right back.
Yes, we did.
As soon as we can, let's flick our Bics.
I don't know about you, but I'm hungry.
Now that you mention it, some burgers and fries would go great with a flick.
And we should also not forget some popcorn, soft drinks, and ice cream.
Then, can we flick our Bics?
Sure. I bet you could also get me some chicken salad sandwiches with mayo and a pickle.
How about some pizza?
Oh, with cheese and anchovies.
Ooh, pepperoni.
So
right.
we're back. We're back from the
Yes.
concession stand.
I got no popcorn yesterday, by the way. I did not get popcorn, nor did I get any kind of a drink.
Why? Were you late?
I don't know. It was the first showing. It was 11:20, and it was just, I don't know. I just was like, I'm good.
Really?
Yeah.
You see,
Kind
I
of-
couldn't be in a theater and not have something in my hands to munch on.
I know. I'm trying to control myself because I can't. If I'm gonna get popcorn, I'm getting the extra large bucket with extra butter.
Because you just
I'm
go
getting
in
the
there and
giant-
you're attacked. Talk about olfactory senses. You're attacked by that
know.
smell, and it's just
They pump it
it's
out.
overpowering.
The problem is that I've learned they're not making this popcorn fresh. And this has really kind of turned me off the last couple times I'm there because when you walk in and they got the fresh popcorn, it's popping, it's coming out of the bucket. And this is not the case. It's like they pop it the night before and it just sits in the bin. And I'm like, how long has it been there?
Is it
It's
just
not
like a
warm.
compressor that moves it around so it looks like it's popping?
No,
Like
they just weren't making anything fresh. And I'm just like,
okay.
it was the first showing of the day. You should be making fresh popcorn.
Yeah. So I'll still take it. I'll take that.
Listen, I
unfresh
normally
popcorn.
do. I
Yeah.
normally do. And this viewing, I did not. This viewing, I was just like, all right. Like you just said before the break, that every one of these Bond movies has this opening sequence before you get to the and you get the silhouette with the gun and the
gun barrel
blood,
shot.
the
Yeah.
blood pouring down. After watching this opening sequence, I was like, I feel like I just watched this yesterday. I cannot tell you the last time I saw Octopussy, but I read the Marvel adaptation to this long before I probably watched it on HBO when it came. I never saw it in the theater. So it probably was a year plus after it was released before I saw it. But it was like I just watched it. I mean, I knew it. I knew exactly what was going to happen next.
There's so much going on in a movie like Black Widow that 2 days afterwards talking about the movie, we had to say what happened at that point and what happened at that point.
Correct.
But a movie like this, and I think it's a testament to our youth as well, that a movie that we see when we're kids, I think
Just
sticks with
leaves
us much more, leaves
impression.
more of an impression.
Yeah.
Maybe it's our senility or what have you, that we can't remember what happened yesterday, but we can remember what happened in 1983 or 1984.
Yeah. I think I just had this discussion with neighbors yesterday, which is, I've now introduced myself to you 3 times and I still can't remember your name, nor will I remember it, but ask me a lyric from 1965.
Right.
I'll tell you where I heard it and who wrote it.
So Octopussy, I am a huge James Bond fan. And Octopussy was really really came at the height or just after the height of my Bond obsession when it started to really flower. Now, let me just give you some background to my history with Bond. It really came about because of Moonraker. And we discussed this last time, Moonraker being an answer to Star Wars, because The Spy Who Loved Me came out the very summer of Star Wars.
Oh,
77.
77?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And I think, because we were coming off a couple of Roger Moore James Bond vehicles, Live and Let Die, The Man with the Golden Gun. The Man with the Golden Gun didn't do as well at the box office as the previous ones. So they took a couple of years off. Scaramanga, yep, Christopher Lee. Yeah. They took a couple of years off. They came back in 77. The Spy Who Loved Me is one of Roger Moore's best Bond films, if not the best. It's a toss-up for me between that and For Your Eyes Only. But not only that, I think Star Wars was getting people, that movie was getting people back into the theater again. So it could be that Star Wars has a little bit of something to do with the success of the Spy Who Loved Me, because that was a big box office hit. And at the end of The Spy Who Loved Me, at the end of pretty much every James Bond movie, it says James Bond will return. And in those days, it used to give you a title of what the next Bond movie.
But weren't they also pulling from Ian Fleming's? Like, he had quite the library.
He had quite the library. So they were still using his titles. So the stories themselves didn't really resemble Ian Fleming's stories anymore.
But they would take like Goldeneye was the name of his estate in Jamaica, right?
Right. But at the end of The Spy Who Loved Me, it said James Bond will return in For Your Eyes Only. But because of Star Wars, we gotta do Moonraker. We already have a story where he's, it's a space related. So they chose to go with Moonraker instead to capitalize on the popularity of Star Wars. And it worked, because Moonraker at the time, and I don't know, maybe still is if you look at inflation, but was the most successful Bond film at the box office at that time.
Well, I will say, Moonraker what got me into. I don't think I'd ever seen a Bond movie until Moonraker, but it was also the height of when the space shuttle. As a kid, you were obsessed with the space shuttle. You saw that thing on the back of that Boeing 747 landing. You're like, this is like we're going to space.
And that's how the Drax in Moonraker is hijacking space shuttles off the backs of those planes.
Space shuttles. Yeah. All landing on the moon base there. Moonraker.
You had the Star Wars connection. You had the space shuttle connection. So I remember, I never saw Moonraker in the theater, but when it premiered on HBO, it was such a big deal because it was such a big movie that they did like a Bond fest when it premiered on HBO in 80. So they played all the James Bond movies, including Moonraker. And that's where I saw them, because I had HBO as a kid and I was indoctrinated. And my father was like, you got to watch Dr. No. That was like the Star Wars of its time. And to me, it wasn't really. But
no, right. So his generation, because I've had this conversation with my father-in-law, which is, Sean Connery will always be my Bond, which I get. He originated the character.
Yes.
Moore was my Bond growing up.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting at. Roger Moore, even though, he is put down, like compared to Sean Connery.
Connery played it like suave.
Roger Moore, right? He's very suave.
He's very suave, and even in this, like every woman that he walks across is swooning over him. But I don't know if it's the writing where he has these lines of dialogue that are poking fun at himself, or he literally is like breaking the fourth wall, kind of looking at the audience, making these jokes. And I don't think that Bond did that.
There were
I'm
quips.
sorry, Connery. Yeah, I'm sorry.
There were quips with Connery, but yeah, Roger Moore was very like letting you in on the joke,
Yeah, very much so. And especially in this, there's two or three movie, very obvious, jokes that I'm like, Connery could have never pulled that off.
But you hit the nail on the head that Roger Moore was my James Bond. He was James Bond at the time when I really became aware of the character. And to an extent, he will always be my James Bond, the official guy. Right. This guy should be Bond on the screen. And, looking at these movies on HBO, Moonraker, and especially The Spy Who Loved Me, enough can't be said about Richard Keel's character. There's something
Yes.
iconic again about Jaws versus James Bond, you know, like
Yeah,
that he is the
yeah.
quintessential Bond villain for me.
Yeah, I agree.
So I was obsessed with these two movies, especially Moonraker and The Spy Who Loved Me. And then it turned out that For Your Eyes Only became the first one I saw in a theater because I had to see it in a theater.
Sure. By
And
then you
then-
were indoctrinated.
Yeah, and then I was indoctrinated. And then, 2 years later, here comes Octopussy. So by this time, I am fully invested in the James Bond
Yeah.
world, and I am
Did
ready
you giggle
to see Octopussy.
every time you asked your dad if you go see Octopussy?
Well, embarrassingly enough, I saw this movie while I was on vacation on Cape Cod. So I saw it at the Hyannis Theater. It was a 2-screen theater. And I went to go see because I was on a vacation with my grandparents. My grandfather took me to see Octopussy.
Oh,
So I was
geez.
especially embarrassed about the title with my
But I'm curious,
grandfather.
So if your grandfather took you, so is that how your dad got into it?
No, it's confusing, but
Okay,
this was my
alright.
grandfather on my mother's side.
Okay,
But,
okay.
But my
I
dad
didn't know if there was like a family legacy of Bondism.
No, there was, but on different sides because my grandfather was a huge James Bond fan. He used to tape them off the ABC Sunday night movie. So he had a full, drawer of video cassettes of James Bond movies.
This was pre-streaming days, kids.
Yeah. So he
You
taped
think-
them off the TV with the commercials. But yeah, my father would often tell me stories about him going to see Dr. No at the drive-in for the first time and just being blown away by it because he had never seen anything like it. So by the
I can
time
imagine as
Octopussy
a
came
kid,
out,
yeah.
and I remember because these are in the days when they just let you into the theater. So I remember sitting down in the theater and the previous showing was still, the credits were still going. So they,
Oh, geez, they
so-
didn't even clean the theater.
They didn't even
just like
clean it.
next.
So we sat down excitedly. So I sat and watched all the credits and then waited, and then the movie started again. But yes, Octopussy came out in 1983, June of 1983. And we already knew that we were getting a second James Bond movie that year. And I mistakenly last week thought it came out in the same summer, but it wasn't released until the fall. And I'm talking about Never Say Never Again with Sean Connery. And we'll get into that one a little bit more after we talk about
But that came out
Octopussy.
83. That just came out months
They both
after.
came out 83, but they came out within, like a 4-month span of each other. So they weren't head to head at the box office.
I'm just going to tell everybody right now, I took no notes on the back end as far as like any factual stuff because I knew that Jim was going to
that I'm
completely
gonna-
covered. You were going to be bringing up stuff that I didn't even know existed. but,
I'll bring that info. So we get the pre-credit sequence. As we said, there's always a big action sequence that opens a Bond film before the main titles kick in. This is no exception. We've got James Bond behind enemy lines. Is he in Cuba?
He's in Cuba. I assumed it was Cuba because these people look, these guys look like they're Cuban.
He's in the Red Dawn universe here in the pre-credit sequence.
I thought Fidel Castro, he was a big boy.
And obviously, that this horse's ass that you see sticking
It's
out of
fake.
the trailer is fake. Immediately, it's fake.
But then again, it's like, it could just been a prop. They couldn't, why bring a real horse in for one scene? But yeah, it's telling.
So he's impersonating a Cuban general, and he's trying to get into this airport hangar to destroy something or other. You never really find out what it is that he's trying to blow up. He looks like the guy that he's impersonating as well. Then the real guy
she gives
shows
him
up.
just for the girl who I thought was Selma Hayek. She gives him credentials, but you could have come up with a fake name. No, you got a real general.
It's got to be the real guy, right?
A real general who he actually runs into. Oh, your name's whatever it was as well.
And then he gets into the hangar, and we talked about it before. He gives him the classic Roger Moore judo chop. You can tell Roger Moore, he didn't work. This guy didn't work out. You could tell he didn't work out before. Like he wasn't like
he's Roger Moore.
He wasn't cut
Sir
like
Roger
Daniel
Moore, by the
Craig.
way.
Yeah. But he didn't need to. He was charming. He was suave. He completely sold me as James Bond.
Listen. Within 10 minutes, I had my panties off. Yeah.
So he gives him the judo chop, right? And of course, there's a big sound effect to really sell it, like when he hits the guy in the shoulder, and the guy just he just falls.
Yeah, it's like Star Trek. It's like
That's what I always love about Roger Moore's fight sequences. Whenever he kicks somebody, he has to hold on to something in order to kick him to get his leg up far enough.
There's invisible wires holding him up right there.
Yeah. So of course he gets captured when the general shows up, and he's put in the back of like a prison truck, and then the girl shows up, and of course it's a great scene when the girl's driving her Jeep alongside the truck that Roger Moore is in, and she's flashing legs, she's flashing boobs.
This is
And
Christmas. This is the Vacation with Chevy Chase.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Roger Moore's like raising his eyebrows, like at the guard, like, check this out.
Yeah,
Come on."
exactly. He's
Yeah.
literally going to like nodding, like, let's check that out. Look at that over there. What
Yeah.
are you, gay? Look at that.
And then he manages to escape. He pulls the ripcord because the guy has a parachute on for some reason, right?
I
So
think
he
they're all wearing parachutes,
Yeah.
like just throughout the whole movie, just in case.
So he pulls the guy's ripcord and he manages to get out. The girl leaves the horse trailer behind and she makes her escape. And he gets in, and it's a little mini jet comes out with folded up wings, and he gets
this
in.
thing is iconic. I don't know what it's called, but the minute you see this, you're like, I remember this Bond.
Yep.
Yeah. And
So
this
he
little
gets in the
plane just-
jet. Yep. That there's like heat-seeking missiles that he evades. That he actually has to go into the hangar where they captured him to get away from the heat-seeking missile. And it's funny because you see it now, and it's so obvious that when it's going through the hangar, you see this jet on a pole. So it's not actually flying through the hangar, but it's being driven through the hangar on this, like the back of a
Don't
truck.
ruin it for me.
He brings the heat-seeking missile down into the hangar, which blows up the thing that he was trying to blow up in the first place. And then he flies out. And, he's low on gas. They didn't fill this thing up before the mission.
Right. This is you. Yeah. Low fuel. He didn't gas it up. It's
But
like, come on, this-
but they take this right out of 1941 with John Belushi, like coming down to the gas station. But he makes it his own. Fill her up, please. And then
do you know that the director, John Glenn, by the way, cut that scene? He thought it was a little too cloy, and he cut it. But during the trailer, it got such a laugh in the theater, he put it back in.
the filler up line?
The filler up line.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he thought it was a little over the top, and then when it ran into trailer, people lost their minds. He's like, "Well, I guess we'll."
Well,
put it
how else
back."
are you going to end it? You got to end it on a quip,
Something,
right?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's a quip, yeah. And then we cut right to Rita Coolidge, man, all time high. And I had this song in my head before it even started playing.
Now, this is one of my favorite Bond themes, but it never really was a hit in its own right. It's not one of the ones, that gets all the attention, like Nobody Does It Better or Live and Let Die.
Live and Let Die. Well, Live and Let Die is probably.
But this is this is an earworm. All
Oh, absolutely.
Same.
And when you hear it on the 70s stations, you know it, and you immediately. I always at least connect it to a Bond film. Now, is this the only theme song that never actually mentioned the name of the movie?
I think. Well, how really?
Well,
could they
listen,
do
that's
it, right?
up to the composer. Listen, this is the name of the movie. Make it work.
Give us another Goldfinger. Octopussy.
Right. I can't sing this.
So we get the naked girls in silhouette, as we often do, doing aerobics or acrobatics.
I thought they were like roller skating or something.
And because then we see
It should have at least been circus people.
Then we see a guy that looks in silhouette more like Ricardo Montalban than Roger Moore.
Roger Moore, yeah, it was not
doing on roller skates, doing figure skating poses with these naked girls.
Yeah, which for 83, I guess roller skating was a thing.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, it didn't jive with the rest of the movie. Like again, they should have been like circus performers. They should have been, trapeze artists.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's what they were going for with the leaping in slow motion in the air, but who knows? But so then we get the bona fide opening sequence, which is the 009 clown escape from
he
East
runs
Berlin.
funny, by the way.
Yeah. 009, and it seems like that this guy actually looked like Roger Moore when he was in clown makeup. Because
listen, everybody looked like Roger Moore when he was in clown makeup. And I said at one point when he falls into the water, I'm like, so this is how Pennywise makes it into the sewer.
Now it seems like a really easy way to escape East Berlin by just jumping in the water, because none of the guards even paid attention to this clown trying to climb over
literally
the wall.
like, who is this clown?
Yeah.
No, but you got and he's running with balloons attached to him.
Yes,
and they're popping. It's like, oh damn, I just gave myself away.
Yeah,
I'm like, take the clown shoes off, dude. You're a
take the
friggin'
balloons
00
off.
agent. You're a bad 00 agent.
And he's getting chased by Mishka and Grishka, the two knife
Oh,
throwers.
I didn't even know they had names.
Yeah, Mishka, Grishka.
Glishka. So they're what? East Berlin? Is that where we were?
Yeah, they're East Berlin, and he's trying to make his way into West Berlin, and he does, but not before he gets stabbed. So he gets stabbed. He falls off the border wall into the river, which brings him into West Berlin. And he stumbles into the British ambassador's, dinner party. And, I'd scream too if a clown was coming through my window, right?
With one balloon still intact.
With blood all over him.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare
and a fake
vision.
egg in his hand. This is the first time I ever heard of a Fabergé egg, by the way.
Yes.
I never had no clue. They look like the legs. Remember the stockings that your mom had and they came in an egg? That's what. That's like a fancy capsule.
Do they still make those little
I'm gonna say no.
things?
I'm gonna go on a limb and say they don't make those
Used
anymore.
to collect those and save them for Easter. We get introduced to the Russian characters. General Gogol, who looks like Putin.
He looks just like Putin.
Now, so he's like the head guy. And he's in other James Bond movies as this character. So he appears in other James Bond movies.
It had to have been before this because he died.
Well, he was in For Your Eyes Only.
Okay.
And I don't know, was
Does
he
that
in another
happen
one?
very often? I mean, outside of like Q and some of these, Moneypenny, like a lot of the bad guys don't carry through, do they?
With different actors, because in the beginning it was Spectre and it was Blofeld, but that was always played by a different actor. Telly Savalas, and then Donald Pleasance was in another movie. So, but then we get General Gogol and General Orlov, who's like the main bad guy, who's insane. He wants to advance on Europe. So he's got this plan.
Oh, he's got this grand plan. Yeah. But I will say this set piece, so it's a crescent half moon table that these guys are all sitting around, but then the whole thing is on a turntable that rotates so that they're now facing the war room, the big screen. And I'm like, it's one scene. That's a really impressive scene.
Now these set pieces are really quintessential Bond moments with these giant sets. And like you said, sometimes it's only for like 5 minutes of screen time.
It's like I built that thing. I want to see that every time these characters are on screen because that was really kind of cool.
And I think maybe they do show it at the end again, like after like things are getting resolved with after Orlov gets killed. But so then you find out like there's this chasing of the egg, because it turns out that the clown was 009 and he dies with the egg in his hand. And so then James Bond becomes involved, and there's a scene, of course, the obligatory scene where he's in M's office, so he learns what the mission is for the movie. And he's got the banter with Moneypenny, but this time you've got a new secretary, an assistant, Penelope Smallbone, I think her name was. And what's funny is that Lois Maxwell, who plays the original Moneypenny, she says in the bonus features that she mistakenly on set called, or while they were doing the scene first, called her Penelope Smallbush, which would have been much funnier.
That's in keeping with Octopussy, though.
Yes, it is.
But it's funny because you think about like Austin Powers and they make such fun of like the Bond movies, but you can't make some of this stuff up, these character names.
No.
I mean, you go a lot of vagina in Austin Powers, and it's not that far removed.
No, it's not.
From some of this, pussy galore and whatnot. It's like, dude, really? This is the kind of stuff? My son was embarrassed to pick this up from the library, by the way.
Was he? Really?
Yeah.
What was he like? Thanks, Dad.
Octopussy. Yeah. Octopussy and... The hell you watching at home, kid? So speaking of snakes, we cut to New Delhi. This is so meta.
But before we get there, we have the auction scene.
That's right, the whole auction scene.
So now this whole thing with the Fabergé egg, I still to this day don't exactly follow what's happening here. Like, are any of these eggs real? Are they all fakes? But Bond goes to the auction. He's because it turns out that the one that 009 has is a fake. But the real one is being auctioned off. And so they send Bond to the auction in London, and they want to see who the buyer is because they think somehow it's going to tie into the one that 009 has.
Yeah, it doesn't. Who cares?
Yeah, so you just go with it.
Globally, right.
And so then you get Louis Jourdan's character coming into the auction, who is so funny. And just the way he says Octopussy as well. Octopussy. Yeah.
And the girl, the blonde chick.
The Magda is the character's name, played by Christina
Okay.
Wayborn, and Louis Jourdan's character is Kamal Khan. And so he is like a disreputable jeweler. And so he's there at the auction and he's trying to buy it. And Bond has an inkling that he has no choice but to buy it. And Bond very obviously switches the egg. He puts it behind his program and comes out with another egg and he switches it. And then he ups the bidding to like $500,000 and still
Pounds, yeah.
Kamal Khan wins it anyway. Bond thinks that by switching the eggs out, the fake will flush out the real egg somehow. And this is, again, one of these things where you got to just go with it. This is just
go with it.
An excuse to get him to India.
Was pissed. The guy was mad.
He's like,
what if we won?
What if we won? He's like, we wouldn't have won. He had to buy. He had to buy. Yeah.
He's got something's going on.
So now we come in with the snakes because they track the egg to India. To India. So Bond has to go there. And his contact there is Vijay, who is masquerading as a snake charmer.
And he's playing the Bond theme.
Talk about meta. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And Bond recognized it. Turns around. He goes, hey, that's my theme song.
He's like, catchy tune there.
Yes. And I'm like, wow, that's something Sean Connery could not get away with.
No.
I don't think they even would have thought of that.
But Roger Moore he just sells it. You just buy it. Like, okay, I'm in on the joke with this guy. Yeah. And he's so charming that.
And at one point he hands it back to him and he goes, here, you might want this to play with your asp. Like stupid. As a kid, you giggle like a moron at these jokes. I'm watching a movie called Octopussy and the man made an asp joke.
Just the fact that you're watching a movie called Octopussy seemed taboo. Like I should not be watching this movie at all.
Sexy cephalopods. Yeah, I thought that little snake charmer scene was very hysterical. I do not remember that at all.
So Kamal Khan lives in the Monsoon Palace, like over the top of the city in India.
Palace. That's a great name, by the way.
That he meets him at the casino where he's playing against a major and he's winning every time with double sixes. Nobody suspects that anything is wrong.
I was going to say, he's using his own die. Come on, that's like 101 right there.
So Bond interjects and he puts down the egg like as collateral. So now Khan is very intrigued by who is this guy, and takes player's privilege. I don't know if there is such a thing. But insists on using Kamal's dice, and of course they turn up as double sixes. And now Kamal, angrily writing out the check, is like, "Your days are numbered."
He goes, "No, I want cash."
Yeah,
right. Make this out the cash for him.
Yep. So, you'd think that Bond maybe would give some money back to the major who has lost, I don't know how many millions of dollars.
He's just been swindled. No, he gives it to all of his buddies.
Gives it to Vijay. And then we get a fun, cart chase through the streets of India.
And again, I mentioned this earlier at the top of the show, which is there are so many callbacks or just so many similarities between this and Temple of Doom. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, even, when Bond comes downstairs and he's wearing the white suit, that's exactly, they're both in New Delhi. That's exactly, Indiana Jones, that he starts out in the Obi-Wan club, and that's exactly what he's wearing is the white suit. The chase through the marketplace.
You can almost see Spielberg, going to see Octopussy going, damn it,
Well, that's what you said, because they only came out a year
so you knew that Indiana Jones.
They had to have been in development, right?
Yeah.
But again, that has a lot of James Bond DNA in it as well.
It certainly does.
He's taken it to the next level. But I was really blown away by how many similarities there were.
Now, watching again the documentary about how they made this, it was very difficult to have any kind of crowd control when they were filming on the streets. And so the chase was extremely difficult to pull off. And as a matter of fact, there's one scene where like a bike messenger goes in between the two carts. If you notice that at one point where they're
I don't know if I caught it.
They're neck and neck.
There's a lot going on.
Suddenly this guy on a bike goes in between them.
He was not part of the film.
He was not part of it at all. But this guy came in and he could have been killed by these carts.
How great though that you're in this movie. Did he chase him down and pay
the guy's smiling and looking straight at camera as he goes
I gotta go back and watch that.
And so they replay it in slow motion on the documentary. He's like, look at this guy. We didn't even see him coming.
He's hysterical. Well, at least
and
he didn't
just, you know, it
crash.
turned out the stunt drivers saw him and they separated in time for him to go right in
Wow.
between the two
And
vehicles.
in watching a movie, you just assumed that it was all part of the
Yeah,
plan.
you assume. So they kept it. They're like, we couldn't have planned this, you know,
Wow.
to work out this well.
Huh.
So they kept it. I don't know if they
Yeah.
had to pay the guy. They had to
I was
find
going to
him.
say they probably chased him down and gave him a stipends for the
Yeah.
day.
And then, of course, VJ has to give away his money. And easy come, easy go. And he throws it.
Okay. Yeah. Pfft, easy come, easy go.
And then
He's
there's a
driving a
great
rickshaw
fight
for a
scene where
living.
like Bond has to pull the sword out of the sword swallower's throat.
Yeah. And he's like, here, you can put it back.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the guy the guy laying on the bed of nails, he's like, get off my bed after
off my bed after he gets impaled.
And then, you know, of course, Bond has to insult Q in some way. Like he's got the rope trick going up and then it bends over.
Oh yeah.
It's like having trouble keeping it up, Q. And,
Yeah.
and then, of course, as a kid, you're like, yes.
Well, that's just it. And he's playing with the binoculars, and he
Yes.
just zooms right in on the girl's bazoombas, and
Yep.
he's like, "Oh, it's booba vision."
Yep. And then he leaves the camera. So for the whole rest of the scene, the monitor in the
you just got the
background.
big, yeah. No, this was made by a bunch of 4-year-olds. Yeah, and we ate it up. See, so I really like Pierce Brosnan as well, but I don't remember it being quite this tongue in cheek.
No, yeah.
No. So they went back a little very serious with Timothy Dalton.
Oh, absolutely.
And then with Craig, who I absolutely love, you know, definitely stoic. He's he's still got some quips, but this is also where we have the dinner scene where they bring out the sheep heads.
Yeah.
And
But-
you watch the guy eating the eyeball.
But not before Bond actually sleeps with Magda.
Yeah,
And she steals the egg from him. And this is the scene where he sees her tattoo and he's like, "What's that? That's my little octopussy." So if you were closing your eyes, if you didn't actually see what was going on, and you heard him say, "Ooh, what's that?"
But it looked like one of those little kid rub-on tattoos.
Yes, it
that would have
did.
immediately
It
fallen
looked like
off
it
if
was
you-
already half gone as well.
Yeah, it was like brightly colored. I don't think they made tattoos that bright back then.
But this is when she steals the egg. This is one of the most memorable moments visually for me when she falls backwards out of the window and slowly unravels.
Yeah, to me that has the circus aspect to it. You know,
Yes.
with the girl and we'll get into the back end because by the end of this movie, there's a sequence where I'm like, why wasn't this like from the beginning? I wanted to see these characters from the. So
And what's funny is that, you know, talk about Roger Moore not working out. I think he's more covered up than the women are in the love scenes.
Yes,
So-
you never see. Oh, absolutely. I don't want to see him. I don't want to see his chest. I don't want to see his hairy leg. I don't want to see anything.
But you do see a big close up of his chest when he has to get the leech off.
Yeah, that was probably a stunt leech, by the way. It was probably a stunt chest too.
Of course, Bond is knocked out by Kamal Khan's heavy, who is Gobinda. I don't think you ever hear his name uttered in the movie. Gobinda, but you know he's the big guy with the turban, so he's Kamal Khan's like
he's a
like
poor
muscle.
man's Jaws for sure.
Yeah. So he wakes up in the Monsoon Palace and has dinner with Kamal and Magda, so Kamal can extract what this guy knows about their plans. And this is where we have that, you know, Temple of Doom dinner type scene.
Yep.
The meal comes out undercover. They take off the top of the dish, and you see, you know, it's goats' heads looking at them all.
Yeah.
And Kamal, and you hear that sucking sound when he pulls the
just
eyeball
tears
out.
into the eyeball, which is a delicacy. Just not in my household.
Not in your house, not in my house either. No.
Waste not, want not, my friend.
So of course, you know, whenever you do have a Q scene, the equipment that Q gives Bond comes in very specific detail later in the movie. Q gives him a pen with acid in it. So this is what he uses to escape
the bars.
Kamal's.
It's one thing that he dissolves them, but then he can just bend the bar.
Yeah. As he's walking around the outside of the Monsoon Palace, of course he has to stop and look at Magda undressing and, you know, raise his eyebrows at her. And then sees Orlov coming in. And so then you get a little bit more story about the, you know, the jewel heist going on, which you really still don't really understand what's going on there with the Fabergé egg. Bond escapes Kamal's palace as a corpse, which is a great scene because he happens upon this cooler where not only do they prepare the meals, but also keep these dead bodies of the people that they kill.
Yeah.
So Bond gets in a body bag.
Basement, yeah.
And so the next day, Kamal realizes Bond escaped. So he's he's gathering a hunting party, and again,
on elephants,
just like
Yes.
Temple of Doom, right?
Mhm.
Like most dangerous game. And so Kamal's men are bringing out the bodies at the same time, throwing him in a pit. And I guess tigers eat them once they throw him down because it's just bones in the pit. And then Bond does like sits up in his bag, and does,
which is goofy enough. But when he's Tarzan swinging,
Yes.
and they play Johnny Weissmuller's Tarzan scream, I was like, "Oh, you lost me here. You
Yep.
guys are just someone's having way too much fun with the soundboard at
Yep,
this point." Because it was just like, really, come on.
And then, you know, on top of that, like the tiger comes out of the woods and he says, "Sit," and the
Yeah.
tiger sits. Yeah. He's hiding in the brush and a snake is crawling
Yes,
over his legs.
Yeah.
And he tells it to hiss off at the beginning.
Oh, I missed that.
You missed that?
I did miss that.
He says because, you know, and he says
Hiss
it
off.
there's a, you know, the jungle drums are playing during this
Right.
hunt scene. So of course I'm watching it with the subtitles.
There you go.
He does say it very low, but it's like, "Oh, hiss off," he says.
That's funny. I missed that completely. I did. So when he lands in the water and there's like this tour group in a boat, and it was like the Cincinnati Moose Club or something. Cincinnati's misspelled on the banner, and I'm like, "There's no spell check on this."
The classic line is one of the tourists, "Are you with our group?" "No,
Yeah,
I'm with
no,
the
no,
economy
economy
tours." And I wouldn't think that somebody of Kamal's stature would worry about shooting a boatload of tourists. They're like, "Oh, he's
No,
with the
right?
tourists
Yeah,
now. We
that's
can't
where
get
we draw
him."
the line.
Yeah.
From Ohio. There's a tie-in with our other movie, by the way.
And it doesn't stop. From this point, he gets in the fake crocodile and goes onto
Where
Octopussy's
so the
island.
Q make this. Apparently, this is a fake crocodile. It's like
Yes.
it's like a little outboard motor
It's
croc.
it's standard issue fake crocodile with M16. And Q is in the fields with VJ. He's with Bond as he gets into the fake crocodile on the shore, and then he swims across to Octopussy's island. And of course,
Yes.
VJ's like, "How long is Bond going to be there? 007 on an island filled exclusively with women? We won't see him till morning."
And boy, will he be tired. Yeah.
So then we get a backstory. We finally meet Maud Adams in this movie as Octopussy. And she takes girls that are runaways, that are cast outs from all over the world, and she trains them to be part of not only her assassin team, but as part of her circus as well. So they're
So the exact opposite of the Red Room.
and there's a backstory where Bond had he had to go after Octopussy's father and was going to bring him in, and because he had stolen some gold.
Octopenis, that's my dad.
Yeah, Octopenis, my dad. The guy killed himself before Bond could bring him in.
The name like that.
Yeah. You think that she wants her revenge on Bond, but no, she wanted to thank him for giving her father an honorable way out rather than being court-martialed or whatever they were going to do to him. It turns out that Kamal Khan is working with Octopussy about, regarding this stolen jewelry, because not only does she do circuses, but she is a jewel smuggler as well.
Keep your options open, apparently.
So here's where things kind of start to coalesce. Octopussy's circus is playing in East Berlin for, army men and dignitaries. And this is how they're going to smuggle these jewels that Orlov has been stealing from Russia out of East Berlin. So Kamal is going to sell them on the black market. So, okay, I've got that. But also, Orlov wants to use Octopussy's circus to plant a bomb, an atomic bomb in East Berlin. So he is going to, not in East Berlin, but from East Berlin, he's going to get the bomb out to West Berlin, where it's going to go off in a U.S. Air Force base. And this is how his grand scheme of overrunning Europe is going to take place, because NATO is going to call for massive disarmament of all their weapons, which is going to leave the whole of Europe exposed for all.
Bond seemed to figure this out, but I'm like, that makes no sense to me. He's like, "Oh, it's clever. That's super clever." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, can you run it by me again?" Because I don't. Yeah, I guess it's supposed to make it look like it was an American bomb that went off on the grounds,
like mistakenly off on the grounds. Yes,
yeah, because us Americans are stupid like that, and
we
can accidentally release.
They were going to double cross Octopussy because they were leaving her with the bomb to explode, and then they were going to get away with not only the plot but the jewels as well. Kamal and Orlov. So
Are we talking about the little snowman from Frozen? Like, I think he would have melted.
This is a great sequence. The whole circus.
Oh, this
sequence,
this circus train thing is a lot of fun.
Where Bond he's on the train with the bomb. The train is moving from East Berlin.
And they welded
Berlin.
the nuclear bomb into the train. But then the guy came on board and like unwelded it. Like, I didn't quite understand.
Well, no, here's what it was. So as far as Octopussy was concerned, they were welding the jewels. The casing with the jewels under the cannon that was going to shoot the flying Walenda guy out of the cannon. So, but then a guy comes in, unwelds it, takes the jewels out, and puts the bomb in.
How do you unweld it with a welding torch?
I don't know.
You use the same thing.
I don't know.
I'm like, how do you unweld that?
Well, no, you heat it up until it's all melted, then you take it out.
All right.
So that's what they do. So then Bond has the fight with either Mishka or Grishka. I don't remember.
Yeah, they're interchangeable.
Yes.
But then he steals his clothes.
And he gets in the gorilla suit at one point.
Yeah, that's like, I know something that's inconspicuous. A man in a gorilla suit.
Yeah, I'm just going to. But then says, he makes a sound like he shuffles with his feet. So then Gobinda, the big guy, looks around and then he's actually says, "Hiya!" when he takes his sword out.
That's what you do.
And
it's like when you play with a fake lightsaber, you have to make the noise.
But Bond somehow got out of the gorilla suit without being detected and gets out of the I
would have liked it better if they just had a fight sequence on the roof in the gorilla suit. That would have been awesome.
That would have been.
Kid riding on the car like, "Daddy, look."
So then there's a big fight on the outside of the train. And
this is a great sequence. Although I kept thinking of the opening sequence of Top Secret, where they're having a fight as they're making their way out of East Berlin. The guy's breaking through
Yep. There's the fight on the train. Bond he gets thrown off the train along with another one of the brothers, right? So because at one point the brother sees Bond in the outfit and goes, "Oh, Grishka. What? You're not Grishka?"
Oh, yeah, because he killed him and shoved him in the cannon, which I kept waiting for them to fire the cannon and the dead body to come out, but that never happened.
Flying out. No.
Horrifying all the kids in the circus.
So then there's the fight with the remaining knife thrower. And the guy pins Bond like using his brother's outfit to the door of this cabin.
Just throw it directly into his gut. Why are you pinning him to the door? No one is watching you. And then
then he's got the last knife and he's going to gut him with it. He said, "This is for Mishka." And then Bond just opens the door and avoids him. And then he stabs him. "This is for 009. And stabs him right back.
Yeah.
Then Bond has to hitchhike.
That's right.
And those damn teenagers.
Jerks. They're like, "Come on, get in. Then they're like, ah! They drive away.
And you see Bond give him like the boom, like with his, the FU with his arms as he starts to run. And then he has to go in with the German couple who are, eating sausage as they're driving, to the. Then he gets in a car and barges his way into the army base where the circus is. And he's, all the guards are chasing him. And they're like, "It's a guy in a red shirt. It's a guy in a red shirt." So he goes into the clown trailer and then puts the clown outfit on. The exact same clown outfit, I think, that 009 was wearing at the beginning.
All the clowns were wearing the exact same. And he had time to paint himself a teardrop. I'm like, come on.
Oh, wait. One more flourish. Hold on.
Right, correct. Let's bring it home, boys.
Yep.
So they're chasing around. But back to the car. So the car scene is nice because they blow out his tires. So he uses, which I think every kid at some point wonders if this is actually possible. He uses the car to go onto the train tracks because when your wheel wells are, without any tires, your wheel wells just lock in. So he's racing, and of course the guy sees him and he cuts the tracks, and now they're driving side by side, and the car ends up getting smashed by another train. And I will tell you, the stunt work on this train, like, it's pretty seamless because that's a real guy hanging on the side of the train. And he's evading the tree branches. He's evading the other train coming by. You see the stuff, the signals and all the other stuff that he's constantly got to push himself up against. And you can tell when that stuff is sped up. to make it look like they're going much faster. It's not, it's pretty seamless. Close-up scenes when they're fighting on the top of the train, you can tell there's blue screened that, it's backdrop or whatever. But there are pull-away scenes where these guys are on top of the train fighting each other, careening down the tracks.
There was an actual accident. The stunt guy, they did rehearse the scene with a moving train. But then the train went into a section of the track. The scene was going on a little bit longer than anticipated. The train moved into a section of the track they hadn't rehearsed on yet. The guy was hanging on the edge and hit a concrete pole.
Oh,
and he managed to still hang on. The director was saying it took off a good portion of the flesh of his leg. It broke his leg. But he said that he managed to hang on because if he let go, he would have gone under the wheels.
Underneath the train. Sure. But no, I mean, that's stuff we just take for granted now. And now with blue screen and whatever, like everything, but that's a physical effect that these guys are doing this. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
But the car goes careening into the creek, and within minutes they're pulling it out. And I'm like, somebody called Jake from State Farm, because these guys were there in a quick hurry. They immediately knew where he was headed. And
so we also skipped over Orlov's death, because when the train with the bomb in it is still making its way across the border, Orlov, because they've already found the car and they found the jewels that Orlov has taken
in the trunk. Yeah.
In the trunk. So they think that he's just stealing from Mother Russia. They have no idea about the bomb aspect. And Orlov is chasing the train, and he says as they're shooting him, and as he's dying, he's like, "Tomorrow I will be a hero." And they look at the train going into West Berlin, like, "It's too late now. It's in West Berlin.
Too late now. It's West Berlin." Yep. Yeah. Boy.
So it makes it to the circus. It's under the cannon. So Bond has to get in there and get to it. And so as a clown, it's said that Roger Moore had to take some convincing to get into the clown outfit. I'm like, it's not that,
big of a
removed
stretch
from what you're playing Bond as already. You're literally now in clown makeup.
That's his wall right there. That's his clown.
That's my limit. I stopped.
I will tell you, this whole sequence just turned into a giant Seiko watch ad.
Yeah.
Because every 2 seconds he's looking at his watch, and it's literally like 3 minutes till this nuclear bomb's going off. No one's escaping. Even Orlov, if he made it, like, you're not getting away from a nuclear bomb.
And what's funny is that when Kamal and Gobinda are in their car, like what somebody tells them beforehand, it's the guy that actually gives them the bomb. Make sure you're at least 20 miles away when this thing goes off. And they get in the car, and the car won't start at first. And they look at each other.
Right? Zoinks! Yeah. While he's on the train, he does see Octopussy getting a nude massage.
And he's got to stop again to raise his eyebrows. Like,
of course he's got to stop.
Even though he's already slept with her at this point, he's got to stop and raise his
when
eyebrows.
He's hanging over the side, I kept waiting for him to scream, "Emmett!"
He's trying to convince the U.S. general, that there's a bomb. As a clown.
2 minutes ago, all these people were on the train. Now all of a sudden they're in a parade on the U.S. Army base.
Yep.
The tent's already set up. People are already there.
And Magda is there like, "General, how long would I get in the brig if I stole your wallet?" I don't know, about 2 years. I guess I better hand it back to you. And then it's like, but there was nobody else watching it. Like, it wasn't like a joke in the middle of the center ring. Right.
It was just a weird. And that general, they played him as an American doofus. He was like, "Yeah," everything that happened. He's like clapping his hands.
It's like the first time he's ever heard of a circus. This is fabulous.
Right. And apparently nobody was missing the knife throwing brothers.
No.
Who were both dead at this point, but they were probably stars of the show.
And like you said, the dead body was in the cannon. What happened to him?
Hey, what are you doing in here, buddy? Only two of us.
So of course Bond defuses the bomb with 1 second to go. He gets it out.
0.01 1 second. Yeah, that's movie 101 right there.
Although, they did miss an opportunity to end it 007, which they already did in Goldfinger, so they couldn't really go there again.
Did they?
So,
that's how he. Yeah.
The first time, James Bond is not going to die, but when you're watching this, I remember as a kid watching this sequence, I was edge of the seat, looking at that countdown.
Well, you don't know movie tropes as a kid. You're just like, yeah. I mean, they make fun of this in Galaxy Quest, but yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that they show that the bomb has 4 minutes left before Roger Moore goes into the clown trailer. So he put that tear
That's
on
what I'm
in the
saying.
full
The
makeup.
teardrops pushed him over the edge. Those clown shoes. Oh man. And I think if I was there at the circus, I'd be like, this is a crappy way to end the show. Like no climax whatsoever. Yeah, and boy, she looked at him like, oh, you are so getting laid later.
Magda and Octopussy realize that they've been double crossed. So now they are also invested in going after Khan along with
Khan!
Along with 007. So this is when we get that classic ending of all of Octopussy's women.
This is fantastic. Why didn't we see this from the beginning? This is what I was saying earlier. These women warriors in action. And again, like you said, with the sash that she's flipping down from the balcony. These girls are erecting poles and flipping people up, and I'm just like, I wanted to see this from the beginning. This is like pre-Wonder Woman, women warriors.
And Kamal, they realize that they've been
kicking ass.
Kamal and Gobinda realize the bomb hasn't gone off. They realize that 007 was able to stop it. Because at one point, Gobinda sees 007 in the car go the other way towards the circus. That was James Bond. Fine, let him go. We'll be rid of him too.
Yeah, okay, what can he do to us now? But they're in their castle, and they're like, what's the commotion? It's a bunch of heroin women out there selling themselves.
It's like, good, I don't want anybody to see me leave, he says.
Yeah, okay, except for the women.
And then they mount a full-on assault.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Palace. This is a huge missed opportunity that it took us so long to actually meet the character of Octopussy. Like this is what you want to see. Are these women warriors? This is what she's known for. This is awesome.
And then Bond and Q show up in a very inconspicuous full hot air balloon.
British hot air balloon. I actually wrote not too inconspicuous, boys.
Yeah, probably the slowest mode of transport that they could find.
Right. And Q was wearing the old school, leather helmet.
Yep.
Oh man, he's getting some lady loving though. Q's hooking up. He goes,
and then Q, because Q, there's a couple of guards that have a couple of women on the defensive, and then Q comes down in the basket, knocks the two guys off of the parapet, and then the women are all like, oh, they take Q. He's like, not now, later perhaps.
Later perhaps, after some spot of tea.
So then we get the climactic plane battle.
Wait, before we get there, I wanted to talk about this. So when he's in the palace, when James Bond is in the palace and he's chasing the guys down, and it was right before he slides down the banister, and he realizes he's his twigs and berries are going to nail into the end of the banister, and he shoots it away. He's up on the top balcony and he's being shot at by these guys, and he drops to the ground, and there's a tiger rug, a dead tiger, with a head, and you just got and he tosses it up over the banister, and when he does that, they play a meow noise. And I go, did that tiger just meow? And I rewound it 5 times and watched it again and again and laughed my ass off. My wife is like, you're such a child. I'm like, come on, that's funny.
Are they trying to suggest that Bond is making that noise as he's throwing the...
I don't know. I mean, they implied that he was making that Johnny Weissmuller scream when he was swinging. They did. So, listen, if he's going to say, hiss off.
Right.
I guess a cat noise is not too far.
But that also, talking about iconic visuals, him shooting the banister as he's sliding down, I think was in every commercial, every trailer. Yep.
And we've all tried it. I will tell you a story right now, because my wife's grandfather told a story that he did that when he was a child and ended up with a 4-inch sliver in his little manhood. Yeah, every time, and he would bring it up like all the time, and I'm like, I don't want to hear the story anymore.
Did he have a gun? And he shot the banister at
he probably would have just shot himself. It's like, wow, yeah, oofa. And again, Tom Cruise has done this, and people are lauding it for riding on the outside of a plane, and you can tell when it's a stunt man, but it's still a guy. Totally. It's still 2 people on the outside of an airplane fighting, and it's very obvious that they have parachutes. I don't give a crap.
Yeah.
You're fighting on the outside of a plane. This is so impressive, this set piece.
Yeah, they've got to, first of all, stand on the outside of the plane, and not only then move to crawling on the roof of the plane, but then mimic fighting each other, like holding on with one hand.
Right. How many takes do you think? Oh, Bob fell off again. All right, come on, swing back around.
Yep.
Land the plane. You can't be tethered. You'd be tethered. You'd be torn apart if you fell off.
Yeah.
You gotta you gotta be high enough. You gotta be high enough to film that if you do fall off, you have plenty of time to deploy your parachute and not just smash into the ground.
And then you have to worry about when you do fall off to not hit the tail of the plane when you fall off. Bond is on the wing and he's detaching the propeller. So like the one engine fails.
Right.
And then Kamal is like, you go out there and get him.
The guy's like,
out there?
What? There's a man on the wing. There's a man on the wing. Yeah.
No, but the way that he beats Govinda is like he pulls the antenna back and smacks him on the nose with it.
That's like a Scooby-Doo move right there.
Then you hear him like, nah! You hear him screaming to his death as he falls off.
Sorry, that's how I'd go. I'd be screaming as well. Curse you, Bond!
Bond and Octopussy manage to jump out of the plane because Khan is landing the plane right on the precipice of a mountain. So Bond, as soon as the plane lands, Bond and Octopussy leap from the plane and do a rolling stop. And then the plane falls off the cliff and Khan is still behind the wheel.
I like the fact that Bond was all banged up, but she was fine.
Yeah, she was fine.
Yeah. He probably cushioned the impact.
But yeah, Kamal buys it, the plane explodes. And then the closing scene is Bond in traction on this boat.
Every episode ends with him in bed.
Yep.
Let's be honest here.
But somehow he faked it up until this point, just to play this practical joke on Octopussy, who thinks she's not going to get any. But nope, that is not the case.
Yeah, my back's not the only thing that's stiff.
And then, of course, as the junk is floating away, all you hear is the one girl saying, "In, out." Out.
Yeah, as they're rowing, but
as they're rowing, yeah.
Innuendos abound.
Yes.
As all Bond movies do. So did we get the fake eggs? The eggs don't even play into this anymore.
Not well. We assume that the eggs were part of that container of jewels. That
you never saw the eggs in the heist.
Yeah.
He did steal the one brooch, though.
That star, the Russian jeweled star. That's how Bond convinced the general that he was, on the level as a clown.
Right. Oh yeah, well look at this. He's telling the truth.
Yeah.
That can't be fake. Yeah.
So
it was entertaining. That was.
It was. It's one of the. I don't know if I would call it unsung, but I do have to say this: that being our resident Twitter person for TMI that posts all the stuff that we do on Twitter, and I follow a lot of James Bond fan Twitter sites, and Octopussy is often cited as a favorite among these James Bond Twitter sites, especially the people that favor Roger Moore films. And I am not going to argue this. Again, it's not my favorite of the Roger Moore James Bond. I would say that's a toss-up between Spy Who Loved Me and For Your Eyes Only. But Octopussy is close. It is extremely entertaining. It brings you right back to a certain place and time in the 80s and, in my childhood as well. I have great memories of seeing it in that theater in Cape Cod because, my grandfather, it's not like he didn't know what was going on. He was a big James Bond fan himself and he loved it. So yeah, it's got very high marks from me. I liked it quite a bit. And before we get into background, I'm going to go right out there, give it my buckets. I'm going to give it, I would give it a solid 4 buckets, I would say, for Octopussy.
I'm going to give a solid 3.
Solid 3.
3. Like you said, it's, there's so many of those Bond movies after a while, and sometimes they tend to repeat themselves. But this was very, it was a lot of fun to go back and rewatch this. And like I said, there were certain aspects early on. I was like, I feel like I just watched this yesterday.
Yeah.
So it does stick with you. And, there's definitely, the clown makeup and some of the other stuff, a little goofy, a little over the top. I do prefer my Bond a little more Daniel Craig now. Unfortunately,
you see,
he has really cemented himself as this character for me.
For me, there's a real comfort zone in watching a Roger Moore James Bond movie.
I agree.
Again, it brings me right back to what drew me to the character in the first place. And to an extent, Roger Moore will always, even though my favorite movie, we've gone over this, of all time is On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Which is not even. Yeah.
So nothing against George Lazenby's performance as Bond, which I think is brilliant. But for all intents and purposes, Roger Moore will always be, to an extent, my James Bond. So, I can't say enough good things about him. Talking about Roger Moore, his original contract had been for 3 films. So when he was done with The Spy Who Loved Me, his contract was done. From that point on, he went on a film-by-film basis. And so he thought that For Your Eyes Only was going to be his last film. He even felt with For Your Eyes Only, he was getting too old for the role. James Brolin screen tested and was almost cast as James Bond for Octopussy. James Brolin. So that would have been an American.
I was going to say,
Bond.
he's not British.
He's not. But then the producers got word that Sean Connery was coming out with a rival James Bond film. They wanted to take no chances. They had already had success with Roger, so they lured him back for Octopussy on the basis that he was going to be going toe-to-toe that year with Sean Connery. So that's why you see Roger Moore in the role here. I can't speak for A View to a Kill. I haven't familiarized myself with that backstory, but maybe we'll talk about that movie on its own.
Yeah.
one day.
Once he found out Duran Duran was doing the theme song, he was all in.
Yeah.
Grace Jones, I'm in.
But let's talk a little bit. We talked about Sean Connery. Now, Never Say Never Again is a remake of Thunderball. Now, it's got a really convoluted backstory. Back in the 60s, as early as 61, around there, Ian Fleming, before the official series started, he wrote a screenplay with Kevin McClory, which was abandoned. But Fleming didn't want to drop the story completely, so he took that screenplay that he co-wrote and he turned it into the novel Thunderball. McClory sued Fleming for not giving him credit for that novel. So then they became embroiled in a court battle, and it ended with McClory getting the film rights to the novel Thunderball and no other James Bond novel. So McClory came away owning Thunderball. And so the producers of the real James Bond movie didn't want anybody else putting out a rival film. So they made a deal in the 60s with McClory that he would produce an official Thunderball film, which is what they did. So Thunderball is part of the official James Bond series. And part of the deal that they made with McClory is that he couldn't make his own version of it for 10 years after Thunderball was released in 1965.
Interesting.
So as soon as 75 hit and that 10 years was up, he was working on another version of Thunderball. And it took him until 1983 to make the movie happen, which we eventually came to know as Never Say Never Again. So that's why it doesn't exist within the confines of the official Eon Productions James Bond series.
Or as Connery is Never Say Never Again.
When it came down to it, though, the producers of the real series didn't have to worry. Octopussy outgrossed Never Say Never Again at the box office. So it made $187 million. And again, another success at the box office. So it allowed the James Bond series to continue.
That's a lot of Bond. That's a lot of Bond right there.
Yes, it is.
Indeed. Woo, we still haven't even talked about Loki yet.
No, we have not.
We had to branch it off to its own episode.
Yeah. All right. So we're done with Octopussy.
Okay.
And now let's get into episode 5 of
Episode
Loki.
5. Remember last week when I said that this show is really losing me? They brought me back.
Oh.
They pulled me back in. This episode I adored. I loved this episode.
The title, Journey into Mystery.
Into Mystery. Direct reference to the comic book in
The
which
series,
Loki
yeah.
appears. Yeah. Indeed. I was very happy with this. Obviously, we left off last episode with Loki being pruned and waking up in, I don't know, some crazy space.
The void,
where there are
yes.
multiple Lokis staring him down.
So apparently when somebody gets pruned or when a timeline, a variant timeline gets destroyed, the whole timeline goes into this void.
Just gets dumped into this void. So this is, I will tell you right now, we have multiple Easter eggs, some of which the writer threw in there. A lot of them, the producers, the special effects people just dumped in there for shits and giggles. And some of them are very obvious. Other ones are not. But we're introduced to these 4 other Loki variants. We have Kid Loki, for lack of a better name. We've got Classic Loki, we got boastful Loki and alligator Loki. So, and apparently our Loki is just as confused as we are.
Yes.
Like he's like, what's going on here? Who are you people?
And so we're really set up with the rules of the void almost immediately. There's a creature that's almost like the smoke monster from Lost.
Yes, yeah, very much so, right? Yeah, Eliath.
So he devours these alternate realities. So he keeps the void clean, pretty much. So he comes
But there's
and
still
eats
a lot
these
of
things.
crap floating around.
There
For someone
still
who's
is.
keeping
He's
it clean,
missing.
there's an awful lot of refuge.
He's missing a lot
And
of stuff.
So we're led to believe that, anybody who is a variant gets sent here, but only the Lokis have somehow found a way to survive.
Yeah, and they managed, like Elias can't get to them in their underground bunker or whatever it
Yes.
is that Elias
apparently.
is.
He just goes underground and
But there's more than these Lokis. There's more Lokis hanging around in the void. These four have just managed to band together somehow.
This other group of Lokis just, I don't know, Mayor Loki. He's got like a vote button on or whatever, but he's got like this whole group. And I couldn't help but think, like, it just reminds me of all the henchmen that the Riddler and the Penguin have in the Batman cartoons or in the TV show.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly what it was like. And then they immediately all turn on each other in a heartbeat.
Because that's what they do. That's what
Yes,
Lokis
that's what
do.
Lokis do. But we find out like why these other Lokis are considered variants. And some of this doesn't make sense. Like the alligator Loki is a variant because he ate the neighbor's cat. Like that's enough to get you pruned. I guess alligators are not supposed to eat cats.
Maybe
That
maybe the cat had some higher purpose. I don't know.
I don't know. Classic Loki basically faked his death during the Thanos incident and just hid.
This is interesting because this would mean that classic Loki had the same timeline as our Loki.
Well,
up until that death
correct
scene.
Right, so right, if you think about timelines and time travel, and again it's what do you use as a reference point? Back to the Future, which is up to a certain point everything's still the same until there's some variant branch.
But that wouldn't
Biff
be the
goes
case
back
for
in time and
that wouldn't be the case for alligator Loki or
no,
Kid
he would
Loki.
always be an alligator.
Yeah,
I guess, unless he got some. Well, because we do see, which is one of the greatest Easter eggs, we do see Frog Thor. Or Throg, if you want to refer
when the
to
camera
him.
is slowly going underground.
When they're going to their underground lair, they go through the ground, and you see what looks like years and years of like disposable prison trays, for lack of a better. But there's a jar with a little Thor frog in there, and I guess he was actually supposed to show up in one of the earlier episodes, and they cut the scene.
Oh, okay.
But he gets this little throwaway scene, and from what I read, Hemsworth actually voiced the frog, but I don't remember him hearing. I don't remember him saying anything.
No, he does, because I went back and watched it. That little scene, I rewound it, and he does mouth something like to that effect. Yeah,
that is pretty funny.
I don't know if it's words or not, but he says something.
Gotcha. Needy.
Yeah.
And Kid Loki killed Thor. That's what got him. And
Kid Loki is like the leader of these.
He does seem to be the one that's got the most. Yeah,
because classic Loki says, listen to this child. This is his kingdom. He says at one point.
Yeah, so maybe he's been there longer than anybody else. I don't know. Boastful Loki beat up Iron Man and Captain America. Like it just doesn't seem like those are worthy enough time crimes to get you cut from your existence. Yeah. So, but anyways, it doesn't matter. So we get this void. We're explained that when the TVA prunes you. And like you said, it doesn't matter if it's just a person or the actual timeline. Everything gets dumped in there. And one of the coolest features that we see, and it's pretty front and center as they're making away from where they're first introduced to their secret underground lair, is a helicopter with Thanos' name written on the side of it.
Oh, I didn't see that.
This is a callback to an old issue. I don't even know if it was Avengers or whatever, but Thanos literally is flying around in a yellow helicopter, and it says Thanos on the side of it. And so that was such a great little Easter egg. But you see not only the Throg, at one point you see Yellow Jacket's helmet, like a giant version of Yellow Jacket's helmet from Ant-Man. You also, let's see, I'm assuming is the Living Tribunal's head. I brought these characters up before that they could have been somehow the timekeepers, the three of them. You see a helicarrier, you see Ronan's ship, but we're all leaning into the idea that somehow King the Conqueror is behind all this, and he's the Mephisto of this show that we've been hoping for and waiting for. And one of the things you see in the background is an Egyptian pyramid and the Sphinx.
Yes, I did notice that. Yeah.
Okay, well, if you know your King the Conqueror story, in the future, he goes back in time using his future technology to take over, and he goes back to Egyptian times, and his spaceship is a flying sphinx.
Oh.
And when he lands, he calls himself Ramatut. And I think this is like issue 4 or 5 or 6 of Fantastic Four. So you're going back to like the 60s, like really early. His timeline is very convoluted because obviously he's a time traveler and whatnot. But to me, that's the most obvious, other than the fact that the smoke monster is purple. So unless it's Agatha all along, I would like to think that we are going to be introduced to King the Conqueror. But then again, it could just be another Loki variant.
Yeah.
Or a Sylvie variant. Who knows? But yeah, so we set up this whole idea, this whole void, and it's explained to us this Eliath kind of keeps things in check, but he's somehow protecting this nexus, this I don't know, it looks like a castle. It looks like Dr. Doom's castle, basically, when they finally get through it.
Loki from the get-go says, well, I'm gonna get us out of here. I'm gonna kill Eliath. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Laughing. Yeah. We've been here longer than you do. Yeah.
But at the same time, Sylvie and the judge are hatching out a plan, but the judge is really, backstabbing Sylvie and doesn't mean a word of it until Sylvie actually prunes herself in the TVA.
Yeah, because this is a little. So Sylvie's having this showdown with the judge, and you don't quite understand. Did she know that these things were fake? Was she just as surprised to find out they weren't real? Like, there's more going on with this. I don't know.
I think that she's more involved than we think.
Right.
And I think Sylvie realizes this and prunes herself to get to the void. And this is where we see Mobius again, driving a pizza truck.
But she doesn't know what's going to happen to herself when she prunes, right? She didn't know where she was going to
I don't know. I don't
think they explained to her that. Oh, maybe she did, because she said until you killed Loki, and then she's like, well, I didn't actually kill him. They just, I think, yeah. This is what happens when I watch this episode 4 days ago. Crap.
So, but then we get this kind of poignant dialogue because there's a really funny scene where the head of the new group of Lokis that they encounter gets his hand bitten off. By the alligator. And I think it's Richard Grant as classic, we're broken forever. Whenever a Loki tries to fix himself, we're sent to the void. So we have no chance of being good.
Because we're not meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting. Although, so they do get reunited, our Loki with Sylvie and Mobius in what can only be in a variant version of the Pizza Planet.
The Pizza Planet truck, yeah.
We're crossing genres now.
When Mobius is approaching in the car, again, Richard E. Grant, he's the MVP of this episode. This usually means cannibalistic marauders or pirates. When a car's coming,
yeah. So, but we get this. There's a really nice. These two characters, the Sylvie and our Loki, have such a nice bond, and these two actors really, really play nicely off each other. But it's cringeworthy knowing that he's her and she's him. I'm like, if you kiss, I'm done. I am done with this. But he puts the blanket around her, and she's like, "What are we doing?" He's like, "I don't know. I've never done this before. I've never had feelings for. I've never, friend or foe. It doesn't matter." But they decide they need to work together. That's the only way they're gonna somehow. She feels that she can enchant Eliath.
Yes.
And she needs his help, and he says, "I don't know how to do it." And she's like, "Yeah, you or me. If I can do it, you can do it." And so again, where we saw them create that Nexus event by holding hands, so it's almost like they're two pieces of one, kind of a thing, and they do hold hands, and they're able to break through Eliath, and it opens up, and here's a castle waiting for them, and that's how we end it.
But Mobius goes back to the TVA to burn it down. That's his.
So where do you get the temp pad?
Isn't that the one that he stole from the judge? That he
Oh,
had?
you're right. He did. Okay.
But classic Loki actually uses a vision of Asgard to confuse Eliath into thinking that a new timeline is.
It's like a new, you're right, something new on the horizon that I can eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was a really nice, because again,
and then he gets eaten.
Because he just told us straight up, anytime a Loki tries to, but he's already trapped. He's already trapped in this void. So why not be good? Because bad's getting you nowhere.
And then, so
He
at the end, you're not really,
himself.
I wasn't certain if they were enchanting Eliath. So if what they were seeing was his memory, or if this is actually behind him.
I got the impression that he was somehow like this was what it was protecting.
Okay.
Like you said, like the smoke monster from Lost. That's very much, what you kind of got the impression that it was. It was like Cerberus protecting the gates to Hades.
Right. So that's how we end.
Yeah. And that's so one episode left. So we'll see. I mean,
yeah,
this has been screaming along. I hope that it's at least 50 minutes. You got a lot of work to do, my friends.
Yeah.
We'll see. Like I said, the last two episodes kind of left me but this one was a lot of fun, and I want to see more of these Loki variants kind of working together.
So what are we doing next week?
We actually kind of tipped our hand earlier in this episode, unless you cut it. But did you? You shared this on YouTube, which was the fact that one of our listeners, thank you for listening, by the way, called us out that we did not mention a certain scene in Monsters, Inc. And the reality is that we probably did talk about it, and it may have got cut just for time, or we just kind of skipped over it, because if we're going to, we can't go 2 hours for each movie hitting every beat.
Yes. Although, that
we
bathroom
do tend
scene
to do that, which
is pretty good. And so,
yeah, that bathroom scene is what we were being called out for.
Yeah. We didn't talk about that.
No. So sorry.
So
what are we talking about next week? Well, I guess I'm going back to the theater, and you're going to be on HBO Go. We have Space Jam, A New Legacy. Michael Jordan, he's getting kicked to the curb, and superstar LeBron James is stepping in. And no Pepe Le Pew.
No Pepe Le Pew.
He has been cut. We will talk about that.
And we have a newly CG looking rendering of all the classic Warner Brothers characters. So.
Yeah, it looks nice. It looks clean. Yeah, I guess we'll find out. I may be the only one in the theater for this one. I don't know if I'm surrounded by a bunch of kids, because LeBron James is huge. That's not. I'm not. There's a reason that this guy he's got his hands into everything, and from what I understand, he was very committed to this. Listen, you want to step in Jordan's shoes. That's not a bad thing. The limited stuff that I've seen, the voice acting sounds pretty spot on. For the characters.
Because sometimes, after Mel Blanc passed.
Well, that's just it, is that, that you can't, that's like with the Muppets, someone else steps in, and you're never going to be Jim Henson. Yeah. And as close as you are, there's still going to be something off. But from what I heard, it sounded pretty spot on. So I'll be excited. Listen, if this regenerates, if this rejuvenates the Looney Tunes into a new generation of kids who we don't get Saturday morning cartoons anymore.
Yeah.
The Looney Tunes and the Warner Brothers stuff, I don't see it that much. I mean, I guess maybe it's on, but
I can see them because it's on HBO Max. All the Looney Tunes shorts, every single one is available on HBO Max.
Even rabbit season, duck season.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
Did they then edit out all the gunshots?
Well, I don't know if they. Well, that's a good point. I'd have to go back and see if they did. But
we watch these things as kids. Look, we watched Tom and Jerry beat the living crap out of each other. It never made me want to go and hit my brother with a frying pan. No, I take it. I probably did. But anyways, more exciting is what we're pairing it up with.
You have been waiting for this for so long.
I have. This is this may be a $5 for me, but this is a family favorite, and every time it's on, my wife will be thrilled to sit and watch this again. Real Steel, Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, with Evangeline Lilly, Wasp, and a bunch of fighting robots.
So it really, in effect, is Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
It is Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. So I think we talked about this recently, that someone is making a Rock'em Sock'em Robots movie. I think Vin Diesel's attached to it somehow. And our question is why?
Yeah.
Because this is exactly what you're going to get.
Yeah.
I think the plot line was even the same with the father-son dynamic. Did you not see this movie?
Yeah, somebody has to screen this for Vin Diesel. Oh,
yeah. Well, they need that. Yeah, I'm very excited to watch this again and to talk about it.
And it's on Netflix, so if you got Netflix, watch it along with us.
I got the Blu-ray.
Oh.
And Loki episode 6. That's
Yeah.
it. We're cleaning out the series.
So yes, please come back and join us, and thank you for listening to this episode.
Yes, as always. I know we say it on the back end, but if you like what you listen to, go to, it's not even iTunes, Apple Podcast. Leave us a 5-star review, because apparently that's the only way other people are the more reviews we get, the more buzz and the higher we climb in the rankings, and then more people listen to us.
Yeah.
So it would be nice.
It would be.
If not, then, thanks for listening anyways.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, enjoy your
All
week.
right, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Hello, everybody. If you liked the podcast you just heard, then please follow TMI on all of our social media outlets. First and foremost, email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. That is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast2018. Stop over, say hi, give us a compliment. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, which is also TMI_podcast2018.
And of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/TMI Podcast 2018. And it should be noted, we also have a community page, so join the forum.
And if you like to watch YouTube, you can see us at TMI Podcast 2018, all one word. Look for the popcorn bucket.
Popcorn bucket. Or you could just go to our website, which has every link there, TMIconfessionalspodcast.com. And we'll see you at the concession stand.
We'll save some popcorn for you.
Be like, this is a crappy way to end the show. Like, no climax whatsoever.